What is up, Gold Standard? It is draft day here. We're super excited to bring you our first ever Gold Standard Basketball Draft Season 1. In the booth with me, my admins, Gish, Rylock. What's going on?
Definitely having a good time here. Excited to see the fruition of all this work. The owners have put in a ton going on. The prospects are hyped. So very excited.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great day in the history of gold standard basketball. Really excited to get into it.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry I didn't have the sound on for a second when you're there. But yeah, we're ready to roll. We're super excited. I want to talk a little bit before we jump into the draft. I want to talk about a couple guys and a couple of graphics that we have, and talking about the things that went on in the prospect games. The first one being the top scores from the prospects. And these are statistical in the sense that this is not opinion. This is based on who are the top scorers there. So Josh Young 2.0, Twinkle Toes Jr. at 17 points per game, Greg Lake at 16.3 points per game, Tim Savage at 14.7, and Joey Phillips at 14 points a game. Gish, what do you think about those scores?
Yeah, I mean, we saw from all five of those guys that they weren't afraid to take shots. Their teammates were looking for them early and often, and a lot of those guys were some of our more efficient shooters too.
Yeah, for sure, Rylock. We saw a lot of scores in there. We saw a lot of good role players, but some of these guys stole the spotlight in some of these games.
Absolutely. It's one of the ways that it works that a lot of the time you hear defense wins championships, but a lot of people have the star power from the scorers. And honestly, with that group of players, there really aren't that many surprises. Those are folks that are used to a very high octane role. They did that standout in college era, and looking forward to see how it translates into the GSB.
Yeah, we couldn't give love without recognizing all of the different kind of scores and stuff we had here. So the other thing is top shooters in there. These are our top snipers. Twinkle Toes, you see his name again, 71% from the line or from the field from three. This had a minimum of 8 attempts, so everybody knows here. Aaron Hughes went 6 for 9. Scout Mitchell went 6 for 10. EJ Bailey went 7 for 12, and Tim Savage went 8 for 14. So guys can really shoot the ball, Rylock, and we saw at least for Twinkle Toes, a lot of his scoring came from the outside.
Yeah, same with Savage. Those were the two that were on both lists, and so that means that they can be deadly weapons to build around. I expect to see those names called fairly early, but where and when is, of course, a toss-up.
For sure, for sure. The top rebounders from the prospect games: Shane Knox with 11.7, King Demora with 11, Mario Medici with 10.8, Brian Buckins with 10.3, and Dominic Shalizzi at an undersized 6'6" Gish at with 9.3 rebounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are a lot of our more defensive focused big men, and they knew their roles, and those five in particular did them very well. They hung around the paint, and they got those boards.
For sure. Let's take a look at the top assisters, the top dimers from here. Jabroni with 5.7 assists per game. Josh Shiren with 4.7 assists per game. Robert Ivory with 4.3. Josh Young 2.0 with 4.3. And Javier Munoz with 4.3. Rylock, Josh Young 2.0 finds himself on another list here. He was a top scorer as well. Shows that he can move the ball.
I think that he was kind of hoping that he could end up being a low draft pick just for the laughter of it, but I think that the stats may keep that from coming to pass. There are some teams that I've heard whispers from that he might go high, is maybe even as high as first round. I'm not sure.
Yeah, for sure. I've got him as one of my top guys just because of all the things he does. We're going to see him even more on some of this list here. The top interior defenders, we'll call them our protectors. You see Shane Knox, 4 blocks, Pookie Seymour with 3, Frosty Malone, 3, Ernesto Romero, 3, and Josh Young, 2.0, 3. So, again, Gish, Josh Young, 2.0, one of the top 5 scorers, one of the top 5 assisters, and now he finds himself as a rim protector at small forward. And the other guy, Shane Knox, with leading rebounds and block shots.
Yeah, I mean Young just so high activity, just high energy all over the court, and then yeah, again Shane Knox, he knew his role. He held down that paint for his team for sure.
Be big, be tall, be bald. Yep, Shane Knox knows
Absolutely.
how.
The man from down under,
Yeah.
always brings the paint defense. Let's take a look at some of the perimeter defenders. These are our top thieves, we say. Canon Abel with 2.8. Slimer Puff and Stuff 2.3. We saw him have an 8 steal game in that prospect. The final game for him, he had 8 steals, which is absolutely wild. Jordan Tribble, a big man with 1.8 steals per game. Scotty B. Peepin, the defensive specialist that everybody knows, 1.7. And Josh Young, again, 1.4 steals a game. So this guy is everywhere right now, and you guys can see why I like him so much.
Yeah, definitely contributing in all facets of the game. I'm really impressed though that a center made this list. That's something of an advantage at a position you don't usually see those active hands at. So that could be a good get for somebody.
Yeah, and we talk about the advantage of some of these guys like Slimer Puff and Stuff and Scotty B. Peepin and Canon Abel are just defensive specialists, right? Mm-hmm. They've shown the ability to score a little bit too, but their role coming into a team is going to be a lockdown defender on the perimeter. And that's really special when you're looking for that role to fill. You got a handful of guys to choose from there, Gish.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, those are 3 guys who, again, I mean, similar to Knox, they went all in on a role and did so very well in the prospect games. And that's something owners are going to be looking for. Someone who can come in and fill a role.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing I want to take a look at is Marcus Sword and Valors. They did a best available to start this draft, and I want to take a look at what they have as their 5 best available, in their opinion, heading into the first round. They got Tim Savage, Josh Young 2.0, Al Pedraza, Tim Riggins, and Jabroni as their top 5. Gish, what do you think about those ones?
Yeah, I mean, I think we see, in at least 4 of those, as Savage and Young, probably maybe the 2 best performers from the prospect games, in my opinion. Riggins had some really good shooting games. Was a little streaky, but I mean, teams know he can light it up. Jabroni was very solid at point guard, and then you got a guy in Pedraza who didn't really perform well in the prospect games, but has a lot of potential, and a lot of teams are really excited about that.
Yeah,
and I think he was beginning to turn it around towards the end, so we might see his draft stock rising based on a team thinking they can make something of that immense potential.
For sure. Yeah, this is a good list. We're going to try to update this as we go on. Throughout the draft, we'll do our best here. The last thing I want to look at real quick is Libertines put together a top positional, kind of top skill list here, and you could see who he has as his top rebounders: Mario Medici, Shane Knox, Demora, Buckets, Chalizzi, Romero, Harris, Butch Harrison, and Shane Lloyd. From his shooting side, Michael Bryston III, Bismack, Muddy Blunts, Nick Hill, Bryce Lee, Shiloh Marino, Greg Lake, and Zima Blue. Marino obviously with Memphis now. And on the defenders, Slimer Puff and Stuff, Scotty B. Peepin, Dominic Chalizzi, correctional curator, who is a really interesting prospect at 6'7" as a center, Shane Knox, Shane Lloyd, Joey Phillips, and Jordan Tribble. And then his post defense, got to give some love to the big men in there: A.R. Jordan, Jim C. Williams, Butch Harrison, Anthony Simmons, Zima Blue, Rayshawn Carter, Jerry Philbin, and Just Blaze. A lot of names on these lists. Both of you guys, anybody stand out on this list that we haven't really talked about yet?
Yeah, I think Zima Blue was definitely an underrated scorer from the prospect games. I think just missed that top 5 scorers list at 14 a game. And 6'10" small forward, and can really do a lot of good things. You see him both on the shooters and the post offense list.
For sure.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my choice also. If I have to go a bit deeper, I'm actually a little interested to see how Bryce Lee progresses. There was a lot of potential from the shooting. It just didn't seem to quite all line up, and I'd like to see how that progresses with some guidance from the exceptional staff that these teams have put forward.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of names, a lot of different kind of players that we see in our league. The one benefit that we see a lot of is that we see a lot of these guys be able to be really good at different things. So we're gonna see a lot of guys take some interesting. I'm trying to pull up the draft sheet, guys. Sorry. Gonna take some interesting things. One thing that will be interesting is late rounds is who's gonna get some of those steals and who's gonna round out their team, because those picks are gonna be really important. But that's kind of what we got to start the show. We got one really big announcement, and we've been hyping this up big time for the past week or so. And we said we were going to do it today. So we're going to go ahead and go to our announcement right now. And you guys check this out.
saying? Here we come. Yeah, here we come. Hey, here we come. Here we come. Here we come.
Yes, he's round the last defender. Onto his right foot.
Here we come.
Oh, it's a goal!
Here we come. Here we come.
That is right. Headed into 2024, we will be expanding into international football. We're going to try to get a more global reach with that. Still a long way away. We want people to know that we're still completely focused on Gold Standard Basketball and building Gold Standard Basketball. But the goal for Gold Standard Sim Sports was always to grow and expand. And we're going to head into international football. Rylock, what do you think about that?
I'm super stoked. As you said, we always were looking to go multi-sports, and we found a really good team that won't tap the resources that we're using for Gold Standard Basketball to help us build an exceptional system. So we are going to go into international football soccer for the Americans, and we're definitely looking to tap a relatively open market and just bring the hype to all of the fans that we have in here who've been excited about it. I mean, we've heard from Talani and Swoot and Bismack in the last couple weeks about football in there on the regular basis, so I figure that's a great opportunity to help bring in some new folks as well as get our core folks super hyped for this this upcoming project.
Gish, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, just I'm not the. I mean, I like football, not my top sport, but we have so many guys in here who, I mean, that is their number one thing, and like Rylock was saying, there's not really a good league out there for it in some sports, and so with wanting to expand into other sports, we saw a great opportunity, and I think we have a great team who can kind of take us into that next era.
Yeah, and with the international reach, we're going to try to bring more people, outside of this small community that we already have in sim sports. We're going to be able to bring more people into this community that may not have that reach already, right? So it's all about expansion. It's all about growing, and it's all about community, like we've said from the very beginning. So we will be expanding into international football, but not until summer 2024. Like we said, we are focused completely on Gold Standard Basketball right now. But I think we're ready to start this draft. You guys are ready. What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
Should we get this thing going?
Let's get it going.
Let's get it going. So the draft is going to start now. We're going to put Vice City on the clock. Let's remember how Vice City got here. They traded up for this pick. Originally in the draft lottery, the New York Skyliners got the number 1 pick. They traded it to Vegas, and then Vegas flipped that pick and gave it to Vice City. So Vice City ends up as the number 1 pick of this draft, and with that, we're going to put them on the clock. Vice City's got 5 minutes on the clock to make their selection. Rylock, talk a little bit about Vice City. They've got their staff in there right now. Talk about their staff, the players they have, and who maybe they might be looking for here.
So Vice City definitely has a high energy and high swagger crew. They are going to look for somebody, I think, who can match that swagger and be the face of the franchise going forward. They have definitely got. I think they're looking for somebody with some big splash and flash to them. And from the rumors I've been hearing, I've been talking to a lot of front offices, and I've got some idea of what might be going on, but I think that they're going to get the right person.
Yeah,
in terms of, kind of looking positionally, we see that they've already got shooting guard, small forward, and center from their staff. So I think point guard and, power forward, obviously, to kind of fill out. And, we've heard a lot that they might be looking at power forward. And, we saw a couple guys, from that top available list with Al Pedraza. Al Pedraza being the main rumor for sure. But, excited to see where they go with it.
Well, we're going to spoil right now. The pick is in, and this won't happen the whole time, but the pick is in, and with the of the draft, the Vice City Kings are going to select Al Pedraza, power forward from Iowa City, Iowa. Tell me about that pick, guys.
Yeah, I think it's a great move for Vice City. Like we said, when looking at the best available, Pedraza has a lot of potential in this league, and in terms of the splash, kind of that Rylak was talking about, definitely a big splash player, someone who can take over and be the face of Vice City.
I think he's still got some growing to do on the court, but I have faith that head coach Ty White will be doing a great job with getting that running, and that by the time he takes the court, he'll be a dangerous weapon there.
Yeah, absolutely. Al Pedraza was a guy that, a lot of people thought might go to this, and when Vice City traded up, we knew that they were looking for that power forward position. It made a lot of sense. There's a couple other guys that we felt might go here, but Al Pedraza at the end of the day was the pick for Vice City. How's he fit in with the rest of this team?
I think he fits in very well. I mean, he kind of took a seat back to some of his teammates in the prospect game. So, I mean, he's already shown that he's comfortable just fitting into a team without having to be the guy. But at times, especially in his later games, he showed the ability to be the guy. And so I think he's a great fit alongside, Billy Bob Buckley in the front court, and Hakuna Matata and King James II, kind of at the wing spots.
What about you, Rylak? How do you think he fits in Vice City? A guy that's probably going to be the face of a franchise, right?
Right. I think that the versatility he brings really is a benefit to them, that he can go any of a number of different ways. Since he is a little bit raw from the prospect games, that means that he can choose where to grow and where to be most effective. I think he'll fit in exactly where he's needed, and he brings just a great energy and presence to that room. I think it's an exceptional pick.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely worth the one overall.
Yeah, well, let's move to Memphis, and remember, Memphis also moved up for this pick. They were originally drafting 9th. They traded up with Portland for this pick. So Memphis on the clock right now. Gish, what are you thinking about Memphis? There's been a lot of back and forth about who they're taking, but they gave up a lot to move up to this pick. So what do you think they're thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, Memphis is an interesting one. We saw some kind of fluctuation with their staff leading up to the draft. The trade up, they definitely were doing a lot of thinking about their team build going forward, and I really think they're probably looking for someone who can really light up the scoreboard. That's where I would be looking if I were Memphis anyway.
So you'd be looking for a scorer there at this pick.
Absolutely.
What about you, Radlock? What do you think Memphis is going to do with this pick?
I think they're gonna get. This is another team that has a very large identity. They want to be loud and in front of everybody. I think they're gonna take somebody who's got that swagger as well. They're just gonna go as big a personality as I think they can.
Yeah, I mean, Memphis is not a team that is shy about talking, right? I mean, their identity has been rough and tough, and we had issues, and we've already had issues internally with Memphis, with Roy Locke, departing. They bring in Shiloh Marino, which is awesome for them. That's a great get for them and that staff. But this is an interesting place to play, and the fans are tough in Memphis, and this could be a place. Whoever goes here is really going to have to be able to live up to that, Gish.
Yeah, they need someone who can really provide some stability and just be someone dependable who can go out every night and do his job.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think I have it from Memphis that the pick is in. We're going to take a second here, but I believe the
I'm trying to think what they might need. They have a fairly solid crew at this point, so there is a good chance that they're just going to try and take the best player available, which, I mean, I don't know if they go Josh Young 2.0, but they might.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see one of the trio of Young, Riggins, or Savage here.
All right. Looks like the pick is fully in. Go ahead, Hawk.
So with the second pick of the season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Memphis Blues select Bobby Bricks, small forward from London, England. So
The
Bobby
Cockney
Bricks is the
slasher.
pick.
It's a great choice.
Michigan will be on the clock next. Gish, tell me a little bit about what you think about the Bobby Bricks pick.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not necessarily where I would have gone, but definitely not a bad choice at all. Bricks definitely has, the personality that fits into Memphis. He brings over a lot of energy coming over from England, and was a higher energy player in the prospect games. Just 7 points per game, but really was involved a lot for his team.
Yeah, so Bobby Bricks is the guy that I probably thought would go a little later in the first round. But with Memphis moving up and giving up a lot, they obviously knew who they wanted to go get, right? So they knew that Bobby Bricks was their guy probably from the beginning when they moved up. Probably kept us all in the dark. We had a bunch of guesses about it. But Bobby Bricks was not one of mine, Gish. But, how did he fare in those prospect games?
Yeah, again, I mean, 7 points per game was pretty efficient from the field, and those points per game numbers don't really tell the whole story. He did a lot of things for his team. Was pretty solid defensively. Just did a lot of things that don't necessarily show up in the box score.
Right. So let's move on to Michigan now. Michigan Killer Bees, co-owned by the Flint brothers, Doc Boone and Earl Flint. Staff out there is Dick Dickey and Brent, our very own Brent Lane, right? So that is the staff out there. Tell me, Rylock, where you guys? This has probably been the biggest mystery. We don't really know what's going to happen here in Michigan, but tell me if you've heard anything about any rumblings out there.
Well, most of the rumblings I've heard have pointed to Dante Ali. That there's a lot of talk of previous relationship, but I did get a little bit of an insider input from our own Brent Lane saying that this pick might just be one that shocks us, that it's somebody that nobody has been considering. So definitely excited to find out. I thought from the start that the connection, the unflappable friendship between Ali and this crew might carry the day, but we'll see.
Yeah, Gish, tell me how what do we have in Michigan already with the staff, and what do you think they're looking for here?
Yeah, we have a lot of big men in Michigan. Power forwards and Petey Wheatstraw and Sada Baby and center Aaron Ike. And then point guard Doc Boone. So I think we're definitely looking at a wing or a guard here for sure. And I think similar to Memphis, I think they could use a guy whose primary thing is scoring. They've got all four of those guys that are on staff already. Provide a lot defensively. I think we might see them turn to one of our bigger scorers here.
Yeah, well, I do want to take a second to shout out everybody in chat. Thank you guys for tuning into our show. I know there's over 100 in the chat, which is absolutely awesome.
Let's go.
Anybody that is new and checking us out for the first time, we could drop our Discord and website in there, and you guys could check us out at goldstandardsimbasketball.com. Also, want to give a shout out to, I know some people are joining. I know my wife is in the chat, so thank you for joining. She's a fan of some of these players, so I think Baby Hawk's going to be watching soon too. So. But for now, I think the pick is in, and we don't really have to waste much time.
Okay. So it sounds like the pick actually got here real fast on this one. They were decisive with this. So we'll go right back to Hawk with that reveal.
So with the third pick of the season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Michigan Killer Bees select Tim Riggins, small forward from Dillon, Texas.
Great pick.
Yeah, what do you think about that, guys?
I honestly am very surprised. Like I said, I think the pickup of a big swagger small forward is a good pick. Definitely working on the big man crew for this squad.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like you said, not going with Dante Ali like a lot of people thought. But Riggins, we saw one of the top available from some of our insiders was a great performer in the prospect games, and I think can make a huge impact in Michigan.
Yeah, Riggins is one of our favorite prospects in this thing, right? I mean, he's everybody's favorite, I think, or one of them. He's very active in chat. He does a lot of really good things, and this when you're looking for the face of a franchise, you can't go wrong with somebody who has the presence that Tim Riggins has. So, not to mention his player actually played really well in the prospect games. So he has that whole package gift, which we really look at in the in the first round. You want a guy that's marketable. You want a guy that can help your team and help your franchise overall. And I think that's a home run with Tim Riggins.
I'd agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And wasn't just a scorer in the prospect games. Threw in 3 assists per game at the small forward position. So definitely someone who knows when it's time to get his teammates involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's head to the clock. On the clock now is San Antonio, the Stampede, co-owned by Percy Cooper and Dylan. They just kind of bought that team after we went through some stuff with them. But they have Willie D out there, helping out. And who is their 4th staff member out there? They just brought on somebody else.
Dylan, Percy, Jim Carr.
Jim Carr, which was a huge get for them.
Get, yeah.
Big get for them out in San Antonio. I know I've heard a lot about what they might do here with this pick, but what are you guys hearing?
I mean, the big thing for me was always that there's a bit of a family connection between Percy and Tez, and so I think that led a lot of people to think that might be the pick here. But at the same time, this is another front office that is trying to make their mark, and they could go an entirely different direction than that.
Yeah, what about you, Gish? What do you think? I mean, the family connection is a pretty good indicator sometimes of what's going to happen, but you never can just guess in this kind of draft.
Yeah, and Tez Green, I mean, great prospect, would be a great pickup and has the obvious connections. But with a team that already has Jim Carr, I think that would be an interesting fit to see those two guys playing next to each other. Definitely 2 high volume scorers. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them go another direction here.
Well, it looks like the pick's in. We're going to go ahead and grab that from San Antonio and take a minute. But it looks like San Antonio has.
It looks like we have the pick in already again. Everybody's doing a great job of trying to keep this one going quickly. So, without further ado, let's head back to Hawk with the pick for San Antonio. Well, it looks like we might have a small technical difficulty, so I'll talk for a little bit more. Honestly, the big thing I want to do that I haven't been able to do yet is give a shout out to our content writers and just our entire media team. PAX has been absolutely smashing it with everybody's help, and it has been just humbling how amazing the hype, the content, just all the energy we've got going on here has been. And I just want to give a big shout out to the man who absolutely deserves it, which is PAX.
Yeah, absolutely. He's made all the rest of our jobs easier. Keeping news coming up on the website consistently, and then we've had a couple nights this week just impromptu blacktops and voice chat. Just the community as a whole, y'all are doing a great job of keeping yourselves entertained. I guess would be a good way to put it.
All right, looks like the technical difficulties are resolved. Back to Hawk with that pick.
With the 4th pick of the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the San Antonio Stampede select Tez Green, shooting guard from Denver, Colorado. So Tez Green is the pick, guys. Obviously, we talked about the family connection with them. It's exactly where they want, and it's a really good pick for San Antonio as well.
Yeah, he's a high-impact player immediately. Has a huge reputation coming out of college, and I think that he should be a great face for that franchise in addition. Huge choice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely a great choice in terms of off the court. He fits what they're going for, the family connection. But I mean, like I said, I'll be really interested to see what they do with him and Jim Carr in terms of how much they'll share the court and just how they can interact. I think that'll be a make or break for San Antonio is how those two guys interact on the court.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. Now we move on to Kentucky, who is a little bit of a wild card, right? We know Phoenix and from other leagues, and he tends to have what he wants, and it may not be what everybody else thinks. What are you guys hearing about Kentucky right now?
Well, the big thing I was hearing was that they were looking at Riggins, that he fit their brand pretty well, as far as the interest in the reserve half of it, and so I'm sure they have to be scrambling trying to figure that out. A lot of what I'd heard had them connected there, so I'm not entirely sure where they're going to go on their second pick, but it'll be interesting to find out.
Yeah, I have no idea, honestly. I mean, Riggins was probably the guy that most people thought they were going to take Gish, but if they're looking at that kind of small forward position, who else do you got on your list? That might be a suitable pick for Kentucky here at 5.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily. It may not be a pivot to a small forward, but just kind of a similar player in style. I think Tim Savage could definitely be in play here, as someone who played with Riggins and brought a lot of the same things to the table.
That's a good point, guys. Like, I'm really surprised that Savage has been dropping this far already. I had him as a top couple pick. We know that Marcus Sword and them had them as number 1 best available, and right now, the offense is obviously there for Savage. What do you think teams might be seeing in Tim Savage right now that's causing him to not be picked up yet through 4 picks?
I don't know that it's necessarily anything they're not seeing in Savage. Obviously we just had the pick with San Antonio going with Tez Green, going with the family connection. I think Savage, it's possible that he might have been the number 2 guy for each of the 4 teams that have already picked.
Yeah, I would agree that Savage definitely feels like a worthwhile pick here, but we currently haven't seen anybody get that in. Oh, it looks like we've got the pick in. This one we're going to have a little bit of time to actually make sure the graphics are put together. So I expect to see Savage here soon. I agree. I'm surprised that we haven't seen him. Savage might make a great face for the Kentucky Reserve as well.
I agree. I think Savage would definitely be my pick here. There's some other guys. Maybe Josh Young. This might be a time for maybe a the Zima Blue. There's a couple other guys who are high impact, and could provide similar to what Kentucky might have been looking for in Tim Riggins.
All right, looks like we've got the pick back. We'll head back to Hawk here and hear what our 5th pick is.
With the 5th pick of the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Kentucky Reserve select Cam Mello, shooting guard from New Zealand. So Cam Mello going, guys. Did you guys see this one coming? Because I sure didn't.
No, not at all. It's a fairly big surprise to me, but I think that he's a player that has a lot of future, a lot of potential, a great basketball presence. We just need to see how his marketing's gonna be. But it's a huge opportunity. I kind of love the option for someone to stand out and make a big star.
Yeah. What about you, Gish? I mean, I didn't see Cam Mello. The first game he exploded in the prospect games, right? And we were like, oh, this guy's a real. Mm-hmm. And then he kind of got a little inconsistent as they went on. But he's been active in chat. It's another international guy, right? So. It's a guy with a little bit of reach, but what do you think about Cam Mello here?
Yeah, I mean, like we said, Phoenix likes to shake things up, and yeah, I mean, Mello, averaged 10 points a game. A lot of that coming, in that first game, but he was inefficient. I mean, just 39% from the floor, 27% from 3. So definitely didn't have the performances you'd expect from a top pick, but. The potential is there. I will give that to Kentucky. The potential is there.
Do you usually go for Rylock in the first round? Are you usually going for a lot of potential? Especially this high, maybe at 5. Are you going for a guy that and Cam Mello could be both very well, but are you going for a guy that is going to be kind of that complete package here?
Honestly, I think that it depends a lot on what you want as an owner in a franchise. That if you want to go in hard and make your mark in the first couple of seasons, you might go for somebody who is going to have an immediate impact. And if you want to plan more long term, you go for one of those foundational potential guys. Make sure you can mold them into exactly what you want to be over time, and see if you can create a dynasty down the road.
Yeah, well, congrats to Cam Mello. We know he's really excited to get picked this high, as he was pretty hyped in chat about it. So excited for him. Let's move on to New York. The Skyliners traded down from pick 1 to pick 6 here. They picked up an extra second rounder, which is a good thing for them if you don't know who you're going to take early. But what are you guys hearing about Skyliners? Obviously, we have some connections in there too, but anything, Gish, that you're hearing about New York here?
I mean, this is yet another team where I think Tim Savage would be a perfect pick for them. Someone who's high energy, big presence off the court, very marketable, and I think could very easily come in and be the face of New York. I honestly, I would be shocked to see anyone other than Tim Savage here.
Yeah, what about you, Rayla?
I had some discussions, and there were some other names that I heard kicked around. Definitely, there was some talk of Scout Mitchell going here. There was some talk of Dominic Shalizzi, but I think a lot of that might have been contingent on the thought that Savage was off the board. It's kind of hard to say what they're looking for. They've got a good set of guards. Maybe they're gonna look to shore up even further, or they might go with a big man here. Hard to say. Looks like we've got the pick back from them already. Give it to us, Mr. Nighthawk.
With the 6th pick of the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the New York Skyliners select Tim Savage, shooting guard from Chicago, Illinois. Tell me about the pick, guys.
Yeah, I mean, a huge steal for New York to get him all the way down at 6. I think it's very possible that he's someone they could have taken at number 1 had they not traded down. So being able to trade down, pick up that extra pick, and still get a guy like Savage, a huge win for New York.
I'd agree. Definitely a great pickup, high impact player, lots of potential, face of the franchise. It ticks all the boxes for me, and it gives them that dimension where they've got somebody to put in front of the media, somebody who can handle a camera.
Yeah. I mean, we all know about the New York media.
Yeah, for sure. Savage is a big name. And if you're going to go to New York in a big-time market like New York, Tim Savage is the guy that can definitely fit that because that could be a rough place to play in front of that city. And you got to have pretty much the big personality, be able to answer the tough questions and have the play to back it up, Gish.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Savage does, one of the best performers from our prospect games. Put up 15 points a game, 58% from the floor, 8 of 14 from 3. Just really contributed in all the ways that you can as a scorer.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now we move to Vegas. And remember, Vegas was originally the 6th pick, then move up to number 1, and now they traded back to number 7. They pick up an extra pick out of it. But a little bit of confused a lot of us what Vegas was up to, Rylock. What do you make of, the activity and the movement that they had before?
I think a lot of it was meant to just be for the drama, maybe. It's hard to say because they traded up, traded out, and I don't know entirely what they were thinking, but they definitely shook up the board, caused a lot of things to shake off in different places for other teams. So maybe they just wanted to get in there and shake things up, break up the status quo, if you will.
Yeah, what are you hearing, Gish, about Vegas, and talk about what they currently have there, and what do you think they need?
I mean, they've got the Saint brothers who fill out the small forward, power forward, and center positions, and then a really good point guard and Scooby Lewis. So I don't think they go point guard here, but I mean, they've got a lot of good options elsewhere. I think this could be a spot where we see our first, true center off the board. This might be. It's hard to know who teams are seeing as the top overall center. I wouldn't mind seeing a guy like Correctional Curator here. Really interesting build. I think might be able to fit what they need.
Maybe or the gentle giant Jimsy Williams. There's a lot of talk of King Demora. Shane Knox could be in
Yeah,
play here if you're looking for a defensive guy. A lot of it'll depend on what they're looking for
yeah.
out of their big man here.
Mario Medici, another good option, I think.
Ricci would be a good option. And yeah, just a lot of very good options.
Yeah, we're kind of getting into the spot where the positions are kind of opening up. A lot of those really good shooting
Yeah.
guards came off the board.
Uh, it looks like we've got Hawk giving us a signal he's got the pick in hand, so back to Hawk.
With the 7th pick of the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Las Vegas Jokers select Greg Lake, shooting guard. So Greg Lake, guys, going here to Vegas. What do you guys make of Lake? Obviously, a very big personality, but what do you guys make of him going out to Las Vegas?
Yeah, I love this pick for Vegas. Lake was a high volume scorer in the prospect games, 18 points a game. Struggled a little bit with the efficiency, but I don't see any reason why he can't get those numbers, those shooting percentage numbers up as he moves on in his career. And I think the personality fits Vegas very, very well.
Yeah, it's a very big personality, somebody scrappy, and I think that should be a great fit. There was a lot of self-promotion going on. Greg Lake thought he was a first rounder, and has proved it true. He's already on a team when a lot of other folks aren't. So definitely a big win for the fans of Greg Lake there.
Yeah, Greg Lake's a guy that obviously has a big personality. Like you said, in Vegas, that's a place you need to be. Another place like New York, there's a big time market, sports market, and entertainment market, and you have to have a really big personality for that, for sure. I do want to recognize some people in chats, and I haven't caught up yet, but I know the last thing I saw Joe Fresh with 5 subs in there. So thank you, Joe. Tito just gifted another sub. So I believe we're over 120, almost 120 people. So thank you guys for tuning in. The draft is going
Let's
so well so
go.
far. What do you guys think, though, before we head to Seattle? Any surprises early here, Gish?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it when it happened. The pick of Cam Mello was definitely a surprise, and I think it's just been interesting to see. I mean, we've already got, let's see, we got 3 shooting guards and 2 small forwards. No, 4 shooting guards, 2 small forwards off the board already. So still waiting for our first point guard and our first center. So I mean that's leaving a lot of good prospects at those positions unpicked so far.
0 centers picked so far. You just mentioned that. That is interesting, right? I mean, that is something that I didn't know. Why do you think that is, right? Like, I mean, what has been going on with our centers? Why do you think they're falling to this spot here?
I think it might be that some of the staffers some of the centers are already on staff, so teams may have been looking to round out a little bit more. But I think that it might be a time where we start to see some folks turn to it, since the centers are getting a good opportunity to have a little bit more room here. You can still get your top center with the 8th overall pick, and that could be just absolutely a huge get.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like we just talked about before that last pick, guys like Medici and Knox, Dan Gleasack, Angelo Marciano, lots of good options at center. And then, we look over at point guard with guys like Michael Bryston, Muddy Blunt's a great shooter. Ho Jarris, another big personality. Some really good options at those 2 positions that we haven't seen be tapped into yet.
Yeah, just a ton going on right now, and we even have a lot of depth still at power forward behind El Pedraza. We've only had the one
Yeah.
power forward go, so it's definitely going to be a big impact.
Yeah, Dominic Slizzy, Josh Young 2.0 still out there, probably the top performer from the prospect games.
All right, looks like Hawks got the pick, so we'll head back to him.
With the 8th pick of the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Seattle Orcas select Mario Medici, center from Naples, Italy. What do you guys think there?
Yeah, I mean, it's just what we were talking about. All of the centers on the board, you can get your top center at the eighth overall pick, and that's exactly what Seattle went out and did. They had clearly had Medici as their top center. Uh, he was still sitting there for them, and they went out and got a guy who averaged 8 and 11 in the prospect games and was insanely efficient, 73% from the floor. Just a great pickup for Seattle.
I had the great honor of getting to know Mario very personally through his college career, and he's just an absolute beast. One of the nicest guys in any locker room, but just completely dominant out there with the boards and the blocks, the defense. Like, he's a great fundamentals player, and he's going to be a huge get for this Seattle team. Just an absolutely wonderful pickup. So I think they knocked it out of the park with this pick.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right, like you were talking about the fact that maybe a lot of teams were avoiding centers because they already had one on staff. And Seattle is just one of 4 teams who didn't already have a center. So no surprise that they went and picked up one here.
Yeah, Seattle staff too is, it's a good staff, obviously with the Stearns and Coco out there. Seattle's going to be a team that is, well coached and well run, and Medici has some connections from other leagues with those guys. And obviously they found a guy that they think they could trust really well there.
So absolutely.
I think
yeah, go ahead.
Super high integrity guy. Like I said, I've had the pleasure to get to know him through his college career, and just absolutely fantastic.
Well, let's head to Portland, where Portland's got the next pick now. They traded back from number 2 to get this pick. Gish, what are you hearing? Talk about a little bit about the staff in Portland, and what are you hearing about the Pioneers' first-round pick?
Yeah, staff in Portland, they made the big pickup of Talani Velez just a couple weeks before the draft. Great pickup at the shooting guard position. Braden Hart just really solid at the power forward, but they're another staff who doesn't have a center. So I think we might see another center coming off here. Maybe a King Demora might be a good pickup for Portland here.
He's definitely one of the better remaining. We might also see, if you're looking more defense, it might be like pure defense, Shane Knox.
Yeah, for sure. I think I would be looking center here if I were Portland, but excited to see where they go with this.
Yeah, looks like we've got the pick in. So again, back to Mr. Hawk.
With the 9th pick of the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Portland Pioneers select Bismack, a shooting guard from Canada. So Bismack going here, guys. Obviously, a well-loved player in the league. The one-name wonder, one of the 2 we have here. But what do you think about the pick here for Portland?
Yeah, I mean, definitely an interesting one. A guy who will pair up with Talani Velez at that shooting guard position. He took a lot of shots in the prospect games. Definitely liked having the ball in his hand. Averaged 11 points per game. Struggled from 3 though, and it'll be interesting to see if he can turn that around moving forward. But I mean, in terms of locker room presence, definitely a guy who's going to be really active, really marketable. The Canadian apparently.
Who knows where he's from, actually, right?
I mean,
he's from Cambodia or Canada. Well, I don't know anymore.
If he's up there, then he'll do well up in BC, which isn't too far away. I think that also in my scouting report, he mostly he seems to be somebody who's trying to develop an under the rim presence. So we'll see if that develops as well. He could turn into a nasty guard post up player.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has some interesting strengths for a 6'5" shooting guard, but a lot of room for Portland to mold him into a really good all-around player.
Yeah, so let's head to Ohio now, where the Ohio Shaman have their first pick with their team. Rylock, you have a lot of good connections with Ohio and their staff. Tell me if you've heard anything from them. Where do you think they might be going with this pick?
Again, this is one of those where they kind of would have liked to have been a little bit further up the board. I think the connection I'd heard was that they were eyeing trying to pick up Bismack there. So I think they're going to be in a little bit of disarray and have to pick up another guy that's just going to be a good fit. I just don't have a lot of insider information as to who that might be.
Well, let's talk to Gish. Gish, what does Ohio have right now on their staff, and what do you think they're looking to get, or what do you think they need to go get?
Yeah, I mean, they had one of the best shooters in the prospect games, and Elias Mashera just really lit it up from three. A really solid power forward in Appleby Evans, and then point guard and center in Aldo Huxley and Bear Johnson, who maybe underperformed a little bit in the prospect games, but definitely have a lot of potential. Um, if I'm them, I'm looking at one of the wing positions here. I know Scout Mitchell has been talked about a little bit with Ohio. I think a guy maybe like a Dominic Shalizi, um, maybe an AR Jordan. There's looking back at small forward. Um, this might be a time for Josh Young 2.0. Yeah, I think I'm looking wing if I'm Ohio. That's
Apologies, I'm dealing with a quick text from one of the insiders. Looks like we've got some trade talk going, but it also looks like Hawk is going to have this pick ready. So let's go back to Hawk.
With the 10th pick, the Gold Standard Basketball Season 1 draft, the Ohio Shaman select Jerry Philbin, a power forward from Gray Court, South Carolina. Oakland is on the clock. Tell me about the pick. Obviously,
Yeah.
Jerry Philbin is a stretch power forward that can do multiple things for your team. What do you think they got it right here with the Philbin pick? I think it's actually a really good pick.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they went wing like I thought. Philbin, wasn't someone who was necessarily at the top of my list at power forward, but I still think a great pick. And like you said, averaged 8 and 4, hit a couple threes, which is really important for teams wanting to stretch the floor, and I can do a lot of things as a 6'11" power forward.
I think it's a great pick. The power forward class is definitely one of the more impacted. I think we had numerically the fewest of them available, and so getting the guy you want here makes a lot of sense. I've got an insider actually in the Dallas locker room who mentioned that Dallas was looking at Philbin, and that's what set off those trade talks. So once we get more information on that, we will be able to bring it forward here.
Yeah, for sure. But in the meantime, we got Oakland on the clock, and the Oakland Otters on the clock for their first pick, owned by Katie Murphy. Got a great staff out there in Oakland. Obviously, right, like, again, you have a great connection with their staff. We're getting into picks 11 here, kind of late in the first round. People are getting taken off boards. Where do you see Oakland maybe going with this pick?
They've been talking a lot of things, but they honestly didn't give me a ton of information on. They've got a lot of information on a lot of different people. They never actually really came down in a solid way. They've kind of wanted to just be adaptable, flow like water, which felt very much like a
Otter thing to do.
otter thing to do. Yeah.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it sounds like actually we do have confirmation of a trade. It looks like Dallas is trading out of their 13th pick overall and trading it to New York. So that's a big movement here. While Oakland is on the clock.
Yeah, that is a big move. Obviously, you said that they were interested in a guy that got taken, which kind of set off some trade talks. Obviously, they probably had 2 picks that they were wanting to get to, but with one of those guys going, Gish, it's a good move for Dallas to maybe trade down, pick up an extra future pick. If you're not really sure about where you want to go with this pick, it's probably the move, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we already saw that work out for a couple teams in Portland and New York. 2 teams who traded down. And then in terms of what Oakland's looking for, they've got on staff 2 power forwards in Javad Storm and Monty Clark, but Storm really has shown the ability to play at the 5 and really be a big post presence. So a team with no small forwards and 1 power forward who likes to play center, I think this is another spot where we might see one of these small forwards or power forwards go off the board. Yeah, and when looking at these small forwards, I think this is another spot for where we might see a Josh Young 2.0. If they're looking maybe a little bit lighter towards the shooting guard position, Almedin Shalakovic is another guy who we've heard a lot about from some of these owners is someone they're really interested in. Twinkle Toes Jr., lots of good options for them, kind of in guys who would play in the middle of the court.
It looks like we've got the pick back from Hawk, so we'll go over to him. Apologies, I'm just getting blown up right now. Lots of activity going on in the insider rooms.
With the 11th pick in the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Oakland Otters select Jabroni, a point guard from New Zealand. Tell me about the pick there, Gish. Obviously, they get Jabroni, who was a big-time player, a defensive point guard, but a guy that can play multiple roles on a team and a guy that is very marketable as a player.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely really marketable, and I'm seeing a theme from Oakland so far. Some of these, with their staff, and now with Jabroni, they are definitely looking to build a very solid defensive team, and I mean that's what Jabroni brings. Really good point guard defense, and was the top assist guy in the prospect games at over 5 per game. So I'm sure they're gonna have to find somewhere where the scoring comes from. But I mean, if you're holding teams to 60, 70 points, you don't need much scoring.
Yeah, for sure. I know Rylock mentioned he was super busy right now. As our commissioner, he's got the task of monitoring the chat and working out some of this stuff. What is going on with the owners? People will give behind the scene a little bit. All the staffs are in one room right now talking. Entering their picks. What are some things going on in there? I haven't been able to see much past the picks.
Apologies. Right now, it looks like we've got that big trade out of New York with Dallas, and I'm also hearing that we might have a little bit of a issue with potentially some prospects who have beefed getting picked to the same location. So trying to resolve that as best I can.
Interesting. I mean, that is the nature sometimes in a draft is you might get picked to a place where that team wants to kind of form you into somebody who learns to love the area rather than, right away. Gish, obviously we talk about real life players and, see guys that go to teams sometimes that, maybe they didn't like growing up or whatever. How do you navigate that as a player?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a player, I think it's really important, just in these early stages, keep an open mind. You may have a past relationship with a guy from college or something like that, but I mean, this is a chance for a fresh start, and maybe it doesn't end up working out. Maybe that beef is real and it goes deep, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for prospects here in GSB to kind of just start over with some potential teammates and even some potential opponents.
Yeah, where do
definitely don't want
where do you think that
discourage
comes from? That's probably coming from some minors play some college stuff. Some if they played there before, they may be familiar with each other from something else. But talk to me a little bit about as an owner, those are things that you got to do in the draft process.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to know who's played with who, how they got along as an owner. I definitely want harmony in your locker room and on the court. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of big personalities in this league, and big personalities can clash. And I think even more so than knowing who might clash with who is how do you handle it and how do you help them fix it if you're gonna go in that direction.
All right. It looks like I'm mostly unburied from where I was in dealing with things, and it looks like Hawk has the pick. So back to him with pick 12 here.
With the 12th pick of the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Dallas Flying Stallions select Kanan Abel, a shooting guard from Springfield, Tennessee. So Kanan Abel going here, guys. Abel, a guy obviously who we said was a defensive specialist. Tell me a little bit about the pick there for Dallas and how you like it, Gish.
Yeah, I really like this pick for Dallas. We saw with Abel, defensive specialist, one of the top steals guys in the prospect games, and fits a position of need. Not a shooting guard on the staff in Dallas, but they similar to Oakland actually. I mean, they have a lot of guys who were kind of defense focused. At least from what we saw in their performances in the prospect game. So definitely Dallas trying to build an identity here.
Yeah, and, with that right now, that takes us to the end of the first round. We're going to take a second here to sort out a couple of these trades and talk about that a little bit. But, with, going into round 2 now, we kind of have an idea of, who the faces are of the franchise that people think they who they were going after again. So kind of just recap for me round 1 real quick while we get some stuff sorted here.
Yeah, it was the round of the shooting guards for sure. I think a lot of teams maybe identified that as one of the deepest positions, in terms of top guys. And
half of our picks here were
off the board. Yeah,
half of the picks in the first round were shooting guards with a point guard on top. So, not a lot of love for the big men. 1 center, 2 power forwards.
Yeah, for sure.
It'll be interesting to see if that continues into the second round.
Well, let's take a look at what was the best available, right? And I haven't updated this yet, but we'll take a look at some of these things on there. Marcus, so this is who they had. Right now, there's a guy on there that's still not taken off the board in Josh Young 2.0, who I had as a top 5 pick as well. Tell me maybe a little bit about what teams are seeing from Josh Young and maybe why he's still available here.
Yeah, I mean, he was a guy, Rylock kind of alluded to at the top of the show, who expressed maybe a desire to be picked a little later. And I think, despite his just incredible performances in the prospect games, I think that might be shying away some of the owners. Is this a guy who can handle the pressure of being the face of a franchise?
Yeah, the media spotlight might be where Josh Young is least comfortable here. You need to put a good PR manager between him and some of these markets just to make sure that he's going to say the right thing and not ruffle some feathers. So we'll definitely see how that comes.
Yeah, so as we head into the second round, we want to go back and we want to show the announcement again that we had at the beginning, right? We showed an announcement. Maybe some people missed that announcement. We're going to go back and we're going to show that again real quick while we get ready for round 2. So, guys, check out the announcement that we got going and enjoy.
We'll be saying, here we come. We'll be saying, here we come. Yeah, here we come. Hey, here we come. Here we come. Here we come.
Yes, he's round the last defender. Onto his right foot.
Here we come.
Oh, it's a goal!
Here we come. Here we come.
So back here, guys, that announcement again, we are promoting we are expanding into international football in 2024. We wanted to make that announcement here at the draft to build some of that hype. But now headed into the second round, I think we're ready to go. Rylock, how is it going in there? Are we ready to go in the second round?
We should be. This pick is now, the 13th pick of this draft is belonging to New York now. So as long as we can get that accurately reflected, I think we've got everything taken care of.
Okay, well, let's. I'm going to actually switch this graphic to get New York on the clock as we head into the second round a little bit. And so, okay, so New York's on the clock with round 2. Do we have details of that trade yet?
It looks like what it was the trade officially is. Let me find the actual press release I was given. It looks like New York is getting the 13, the Flying Stallions are getting the 19, so they're swapping picks this round, and they're swapping picks in the 5th round as well. It looks like Dallas is confident that their guy's going to be there a couple picks later and is looking to move up big in the 5th round when they go pretty much from one end of the round all the way to the other. So should yield a lot of improved capital as they try and find the value down at the bottom of the draft.
Yeah, Gish, in a live draft like we're doing here, there's the potential for a lot of movement, and we're seeing it here. We're seeing, obviously, New York's now traded out of the first spot and now traded up into the first pick here in the second round in a snake draft. So do you like what's kind of going on with them and what they got going on in New York? I mean, it sounds like Ant and his staff are really just, trying to make some moves and make the best decisions possible for their team.
Yeah, I like their willingness to jump around so far, and they're not just sitting put and letting the other teams decide what they're gonna do. They're going out finding the guys they want, and the fact that they're trading up here from the last pick of the round to the first pick of the round is very, very telling to me. That this is another one of those 4 teams we talked about who doesn't have a center on their staff, and they took Savage, great pick in the first round. I would be shocked to see anything other than center here.
I think they're going to definitely be moving up for one of the big ones.
Yeah, and specifically Demora, Knox, and maybe Gleasack. I would think.
I could also see maybe Shane Lloyd with the performance from the prospect games, but I think that one's maybe the least likely of the 3. I'm thinking at this point that it's going to be Knox or Demora.
Yeah, that's my thoughts as well.
It looks like the pick is in. We'll give Hawk just a moment to get there, but what do you think, Gish? Hawk or Knox or Demora, do you think?
I think in terms of the just because of the New York media market, I think Demora is who I would lean here.
I think he'll fit that better. Looks like Hawk has the pick ready, so let's go for pick 13.
With the 13th pick in the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the New York Skyliners select King Demora, a center from São Miguel Açores, Portugal.
Huge get there by...
Yeah, love this pick.
So they get King Demora here, which puts Oakland on the clock. But, yeah, obviously trading up for a guy like Demora, you got to nail this pick. And, when it looks like when they saw who was going to be on the clock or who was going to be on the board right there, right, they knew that they wanted to go get somebody special. And, they were going to be picking all the way at the back end of that second round. But it looks like they found their guy in King Demora here early here in the second.
Yeah, and if I heard the trade details from you correctly, Rylock, they actually traded their pick from the middle of the second round. Is that correct?
Correct. The one that they picked up, from trading back. That's the one they used to move up.
Yeah, that's just a great use of draft assets by the New York front office. They picked up the extra pick a couple weeks ago, trading down, and now use it to trade back up to find another guy that they really, really wanted. Of course, Demora was great in the prospect games, 11 rebounds per game. Of course, had the distinction of being our first ever foul out in league history. But someone who I think is going to provide just really good things for New York, both on and off the court.
He was our first foul out, wasn't he? That's an interesting thing. He's aggressive. I mean, but he also had games where, 3-4 blocks. Obviously, that's going to come with some fouls when you have that kind of aggression on defense. But that's a guy that's going to provide you pretty much almost a double-double every night with a few blocks. So that's a really good get for New York to move up. And another guy that fits New York really well, I think.
Absolutely.
So that brings us to Oakland, right? Oakland took Jabroni with their first pick. Where's that leave them, Gish, heading here into the second round?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they've got 2 point guards and 2 power forwards, and we talked when they were picking in the first round. Jabad Storm plays a little bit more like a center than he does a power forward, but they're still kind of lacking at no one at the small forward position, no one at the center position. I think this is maybe a spot for another center. Um,
It would definitely make sense. I think that for me, I would probably get the versatility of trying to lock up one of the top tier small forwards right now, but I could see it definitely going either way.
yeah, and in terms of small forwards, again, I mean, Josh Young 2.0 still sitting there, just waiting.
That to me is a little interesting that Josh Young 2.0 is still on the board, because obviously I will say it again, he is a top 5 guy in multiple categories from the prospect games. Trigger's a guy that's been around for a while, so it is interesting to see a little bit of teams' kind of mindset behind this. But there's teams right there. We might see some movement up now with Josh Young, even still on the board. That's when that teams start kind of going, okay, maybe we do got to move up for this guy because it's getting too far that he hasn't been taken.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a potential trade up if Young continues to fall, and an opportunistic team moves up to get him. But looking at some of the other small forwards, Dante Ali is a guy we talked about early on, with the family connection with San Antonio, but someone who could be a good option for Oakland. Scout Mitchell, another top performer from the prospect games on the board here. So if they're looking small forward, they've got some good options for sure.
It looks like pick is in at this point, so without further ado, back to Hawk.
With the 14th pick in the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Oakland Otters select Javier Munoz, the point guard from Valencia, Spain. So Munoz going here, formerly Roy Locke's player, now Javier Munoz. Good pick here for Oakland, getting a point guard. Gish, do they have a point guard already on staff, right? With Audi Enough, is he a point guard or a shooting guard?
Yeah, he is a point guard.
Okay, so
This is
we do see a lot of
very
staff.
interesting for Oakland.
Yeah, we do see a lot of staff sometimes kind of hang out, and I think a lot of staff will put their guys, more on the bench. And Javier Munoz is a guy that could come in right away and make a difference for a team like Oakland, though.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, they of course took Jabroni in the first round. You got another point guard, but looking at the height of Javier Munoz at 6'7", this may be a place where they're looking at a point guard who can come in and fit in at the 2. And Munoz, was a good assist guy in the prospect games. Averaged about 4 a game. Really struggled shooting the ball though, over 12 from 3. But someone very marketable, good potential. Not certain about the fit for Oakland, but I trust their staff that they have a plan to make it work.
Yeah,
It might be that Stank ends up going to the 3 at that point, which would be very interesting.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of movement
another
with
potential.
Oakland staff, kind of like was strategic. Katie is a very strategic coach. So, Gish, what's some of those guys like Javad Storm and Stank? They can play multiple positions. Even Odd Enough with his height can play multiple positions as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's possible. We're trying to fit some of these teams into the boxes of 2, maybe 3 per position, but Oakland could very well be looking for just a team of versatile players who they can mix and match and keep opposing coaches completely off guard as to what their game plan is going to be.
Yeah, so that brings Ohio back on the clock. Tell me maybe where you think they'll go here. They went Jerry Philbin in the first round, Gish. You get them a power forward, a stretch power forward. What do you think they might be going here in this round?
Yeah, I think if I'm Ohio, I'm looking guard here, and honestly, Javier Munoz might have been someone that they were looking at. Only Aldo Huxley, one of their staff members, at the guard spots right now. So definitely an opportunity to look for point guard or shooting guard here for Ohio.
Yeah, Rylock, what do you think about Ohio here as you're monitoring the chat? I know we're keeping you busy, but what do you think about Ohio?
Yeah. I think at this point that they might be leaning small forward here. So this could be the time we finally call Josh Young 2.0's name. But also, I've heard quite a bit about some of the interpersonal relationships that are going on there, so we might end up going a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, we saw in the lead up a lot of not necessarily from Ohio, but from the community at large, a lot of Scout Mitchell to Ohio content.
Yeah, a lot of that. So we'll see if there's any credence to
To
that
those
rumor. The
rumors,
pick
yeah.
is in, it looks like. So let's go back to Hawk.
With the 15th pick of the Gold Standard Season 1 draft, the Ohio Shaman selects Scout Mitchell, small forward from Fairfax, Virginia.
So the hype is real.
Yeah, I mean, it was talked about. I mean, the rumors had to be coming from somewhere, and clearly, at least a little bit, they were coming from inside Ohio. Um, and I mean, Scout Mitchell was one of the better performers in the prospect games for sure. 13 points, 4 rebounds, 56% from the floor, 6 of 10 from three across his games. So I mean, Ohio is definitely getting a guy in Scout Mitchell who can play.
Yeah, Scott Mitch, and a big personality, right? Like Mitch has got obviously a huge personality, and yes, the rumors of guys to or Scout Mitchell to Ohio have been since day one. I actually thought he would go in the first round to them, but they got to be really happy that he's fallen to the second round, where they can snag him up here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know and we can see it in chat that Chairman Machera over there at Ohio, one of the bigger Scout Mitchell fans, maybe the biggest Scout Mitchell fan among anyone in the league. So I know he's incredibly excited to get Scout, especially in the second round.
Yeah, Scout Mitchell. Go ahead, Redlock. I think you seem like you have some thoughts on Scout here.
I mean, Scout is definitely a huge fan of the GSP and is clamoring to get an interview in here. I think we might be a little pressed for time, but let me know if we do have time to get him in the booth here. He seems to be knocking on the
we
door.
could bring him in the third or something here.
Okay, sounds
So,
good. We'll get that done later then.
Yeah, we can get through the first couple and then bring him in during the third, or anybody that wants to talk about being drafted, we could bring him in the third round here. Well, we have a little more time to do that.
Sounds good. Yep. It looks like at this point we've got Portland on the clock with one of those picks that they traded up to get, or as benefit from the trade down. So
yeah, this is their pick.
Should be interesting here.
This is the pick from the first round with Vegas,
Memphis.
I believe, right? Oh, Memphis. This is their extra second round pick here, or the second round that they picked up, I believe, here in this one. So,
Correct.
Tell me about Portland a little bit, where they went with their first pick and what you guys are thinking here, where they might go with their second pick.
Well, at this point, they've got a point guard, 2 shooting guards, a small forward, and a power forward. So center is the natural pick here, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, everything kind of just goes out the door at some point, right? And you kind of just talk to me about, and something we haven't mentioned yet, talk to me about best available and how that kind of works with some teams is, when your draft board just gets like, I don't know who to take, like you just take the best available on the board. What is the mindset behind that?
I mean, I think that that's kind of maybe one of the benefits of filling some of your biggest needs early on is you can kind of just look and see, who's fallen a little bit too far. And then, I mean, we've already kind of seen it with Oakland. Some teams, they're just looking for the guys who can be versatile, fill a lot of different roles, a lot of different positions. And so, the traditional basketball positions that, we know may not be a big factor in the minds of some of these owners. And if they can make it work, then all the better for them. All right, and it sounds like this pick is in from Portland, so let's send it over to Hawk and see where they went.
With the 16th pick of the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Portland Pioneers select Josh Young 2.0, small forward from Arkansas. So Josh Young is the pick, Gish. We were wondering when this was going to happen. It looks like, finally, and we just talked about best available, right? It looks like that's exactly where Portland's going right here.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about, Portland still without a center, and, if you're looking traditionally, you might think that's where they're going, but they were clearly looking at best available, and when you look at that, the clear answer for best available was Josh Young 2.0.
Right.
So I think a great pickup for Portland.
I love this pick because of how high I thought I had him on my board to get a guy like Josh Young 2.0 in the second round, which he does a little bit of everything, right? We saw his scoring ability. He passes almost 5 assists per game in the prospect game. Was among the leaders in blocks and steals, so can score, can defend, can assist. Like, that is a complete package and an absolute steal for Portland here at 16.
Yeah, it's a huge pickup. And I think that, like you said, they just couldn't pass up on this value here at this pick.
Yeah, for sure. So that puts Seattle on the clock. Seattle is remind me who they took in the first again as I'm looking at it.
They took Mario Medici as center.
So, obviously they took a center. What does that leave them with, Gish? Kind of needing here with this pick.
Well, they're actually a perfect example of what I was talking about just now with Portland. Center was the only position they didn't have filled from their staff, and so by filling that biggest need, they have a lot of flexibility here to pick who they think is the best available, and it may be that Josh Young 2.0 was gonna be that guy until just a minute ago.
Well, tell me who you think is still on the board as kind of your best available, and who would make sense as a pick here to Seattle at 17.
Yeah, some of it, just looking at some of the top performers left, Shane Knox was really solid at the center position, 10 and 12, 69% from the floor. We only saw Almedin Shalakovic for just the one game, but he was a stud in that one game and someone that a lot of the owners were really excited about. And then I think Twinkle Toes Jr., another one, 11 of 16 from three, our highest performing three-point shooter. So I think any of those three guys, just in terms of top performers, would be huge pickups for Seattle.
Yeah,
I would throw in a couple more. We've got maybe like Zima Blue, if you want that really dynamic punch from the three. Slimer Puff and stuff as a lockdown D as a guard. Like, there's a lot of good options still there. Tons of deep talent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looks like Hawk is ready, so let's go back to him for the pick.
With the 17th pick of the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Seattle Orcas select Shane Knox, a center from Melbourne, Australia. So Shane Knox going here, guys. Obviously, Gish, you said they had a ton of freedom to kind of do whatever they wanted with this pick. And Shane Knox definitely has some connection with the Seattle staff. It's obviously a great landing spot for him for multiple reasons. But what do you think of the pick here by Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, they've gone double center with their two picks, but I mean, they've gotten two of the best in Medici and Knox. They are building a scary presence down low for opposing big men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Radek?
really like
Knox is obviously a defensive specialist, rebounding, and he's going to give you a lot of block shots. To pair that with a guy like Medici who scores a lot, that's a good center tandem.
Well, I think Medici has a defensive mentality as well, so you're just going to see a lot of the more offensive centers run into a brick wall there, where Seattle is saying you're going to have to try and beat the guards, I guess, and it's going to be interesting to see how that works. They've got an interesting start to this team. It's going to be scary, like Gish said.
Yeah, and I mean, even though both of those guys are defensive builds, Medici averaged 8 per game, Knox at 10 per game, and we're two of the top guys in terms of efficiency from the floor at 73%, 69%. So they may not be stretch fives or guys who you're looking to post up every game, but I think just their pure size allows them to give you a nice little boost at the 5.
So it seems like Seattle's going really defensive here as their team build, and that's where we're going to start to see that a little bit, Rylock, here in the second round with the identities of teams, and we're starting to see a pattern with Seattle to go really defensive and really defend the paint well. It's a good strategy to have, to build your team defensively.
Yeah, I love defensive teams. They definitely are an exceptional way to try and make deep runs.
Yeah, Gish, what do you think about defensive teams? Obviously, they got a guy in Dubstern that could shoot it a little bit already, but other than that, Steel Stern is a defensive small forward. Coco Raccoon is a defensive power forward. So they have a lot of defense out there in Seattle already. It's gonna make it tough to score on those guys.
Yeah, I mean, Rylock mentioned it earlier. I see Demora saying it in chat, but I mean, it's always out there. Defense wins championships, and Seattle certainly is subscribing to that theory based on their first 2 picks and kind of the builds that they've gone for with their staff.
For sure,
we know
that puts us on
Stearns
Vegas. Sorry to interrupt you there. That puts us on Vegas. In Vegas with their second pick now coming up. Tell me a little bit about what Vegas has and where they can go with this pick, Gish.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas was kind of the surprise of the first round, taking Cam Mello at the shooting guard position. A move that we didn't really see coming, and we talked about it before that first pick.
Vegas was Greg Lake. Kentucky
Vegas
was Cam Miller.
Yeah, that's my bad. You're right.
Yeah.
Mixing up 2 picks here, but yeah.
Yep.
So, but still, a shooting guard. Greg Lake, very high scorer.
Yep.
I think we might see a little bit more defensively from Vegas here, and maybe trying to mix it up.
Absolutely. Looks like Hawk has the pick ready, so go ahead, Hawk.
With the 18th pick of the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Las Vegas Jokers select Devin Davis, a point guard from Lexington, Kentucky. So the Jokers go into the point guard position to get Devin Davis. This is a guy, Rylock, that we talked about a little bit. We were kind of in between him going second, third round. You said there's a possibility he jumps into the second. It looks like Vegas likes him enough to get him here in the second round. What do you think about the pick here with Davis?
I love this one. He is going to add another dimension to him. He may be a huge get from the bench, and basically there's going to be a lot of high octane out of this Vegas squad. They're looking all gas, no brakes here from the looks of it, and should be interesting to see what a scoring team can do.
Well, I think that puts Dallas on the clock now after that trade, right? So I believe that is the result. I think Dallas is now on the clock, if I have that right.
Yes, I believe that is true. We go to Dallas next for the 19th pick of the draft.
And this is where they moved from 13 down to here to 19, right, for that trade from New York?
Yep.
Okay, so Dallas in the first round took Kanan Abel, a defensive specialist, Gish. Where might they be looking here based on the rest of their roster? Where might they be looking to go here in the second round?
Yeah, another team that maybe is focused on the defensive end, with Kanan Abel going, similar to what we talked about with a couple others. And similar to what we saw in Seattle with the pick of Kanan Abel, they also have one person at each of the 5 positions. So a lot of flexibility to go out and get who they think is the top guy available. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't really know where they're gonna go here. I've talked to Pizzo quite a bit, and I know there's some guys they like. I know they like to get a shooter in this draft. Who are maybe some of the top shooters guys that are still left on the board out there?
Yeah, I mean the 2 big ones are Chalakovich, who was 4 for 4 from 3 in his one prospect game, and Twinkle Toes Jr., who was 11 of 16 from 3 at 69%. Michael Bryce did another option at 6 of 13 from 3. So definitely some guys who really showed out in terms of shooting the ball. that are still on the board.
Well, obviously Rylock is huge for a team. You got to be able to put the ball in the hoop, and shooting behind the arc is big time. Is there
Yeah.
anybody else that might stand out to you as a shooter that Dallas can go here?
I mean, there's a lot of high octane folks. I know that Shiren might be a possibility. We might even see McGinty get a nod here if they're willing to overlook his height. So hard to say. Looks like Hawk has the pick, so let's go back to him.
With the 19th pick of the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Dallas Flying Stallions select Toby Nur, a point guard from Kenton, Ohio. So Toby Nur goes here, guys. He was very inconsistent in games, but he has the ability to shoot the ball, and that's where we thought they would go maybe with a shooter. It's not the shooter we thought that they would go to, but it was a guy that I think hit 5 or 6 threes in one of these prospect games.
Yeah, Nur was maybe our highest volume 3-point shooter, 6 for 26 in the games. But like you said, I think in one of the games that we called Hawk, he couldn't miss. So definitely a guy who was a little bit streaky, but showed the ability to hit some shots from outside. So, and with the rumors that Dallas was looking for a shooter, they've got a guy who clearly wants that to be his identity.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that puts Kentucky on the clock now here, Rylock. Obviously there was a lot of Tim Riggins going to Kentucky. He obviously got taken by Michigan earlier, which forced, Kentucky to now take Cam Mello, which was the interesting pick. Not that they panicked, but they go get a shooting guard, a guy that could shoot the ball, score the ball a little bit. Where maybe will Kentucky be going here? What else do they need on that team there?
I think that at this point they've got one of everything as well as far as like base natural positions with their staff, so they're in a place to go best available as well. We could see somebody like Michael Bryston if they want some offense. We could see there's some centers, lots of good options, but we'll see how it plays out for sure.
Yeah, and someone else I want to call out, mostly because he dropped something in the chat, but he was hiding up here at the top of my list. We haven't really talked about Scottie B. Pippen. He's actually the highest overall player coming into this draft. Another defensive specialist, and someone I just wanted to give a shout out to is someone else who's probably near the top of that best available list at this point.
Yeah, Scottie B. Pippen is a defensive specialist. We talked about that already, right? And that's a guy that got a handful of steals, led that in steals, and also had an 18-point performance, I believe, in that one of those prospect games. So he has the ability to shoot it and score it a little bit. It's not his strong suit, but he has that ability to do that. But he's an absolute lockdown defender on the perimeter. That's got to be an asset for a lot of teams. Kane and Abel went already as one of those lockdowns. We haven't seen Simon Puffinstuff, who's another one of those. But it seems like teams are content to wait on one of those until the next one gets taken. So we'll see, kind of where they go with that. But it seems like that's kind of the mindset within some of the owners right now.
Absolutely.
Looks like we've got the pick coming in, but it's not quite there yet. I think that I like the idea of one of the defensive guys going. I think I would lean Puffinstuff just because that would be a hilarious fit in those jerseys, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, looks like we've got the pick fully in for Hawk, so let's go back to him.
With the 20th pick in the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Kentucky Reserve selects Scottie B. Pippen, small forward from Eagle, Idaho. So Scottie from my hometown out here, Scottie B. Pippen gets picked here by the Kentucky Reserve. You just talked about him, Gitch. Tell me why it's such a good pick here in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. A guy who's gone all in on defense. I mean, that is what he wants his identity to be, and yet he went out there and dropped 15 in one of his prospect games. A guy who can really do it all. 6'5", small forward, kind of maybe in the mold of like a Draymond Green. from the NBA. Just a guy who's going to go out there, be ultra consistent for you, lock down, the other team's best player, and just someone you can count on overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a huge pick. Sorry to talk
No,
over you,
you're
Hawk,
good. You're
but
good. Go ahead.
think this was a good one. It'll definitely benefit that team, bring another dimension, especially from the three. So he's a versatile player, able to move around.
Yeah, well, that brings us to San Antonio, guys. And San Antonio took Tez Green in round 1. Obviously, the familial connection there with Percy. But now we get into, they took a shooting guard in round 1. They got a couple bigs on that roster, right? So where do you think they go here in round 2?
Yeah, I
Well,
think
the obvious. Go ahead, Gish. Sorry.
I was going to say, yeah, I think we're about to say the same thing, that the obvious hole is point guard. And we're getting a little thin in the point guard ranks. We still do have some good ones. Michael Bryston the third. This is maybe even the time that we start talking about a guy like Hojaris. There are some options out there. Again, maybe with Shiren and McGinty, if they're willing to overlook the height, some potential there. But yeah, I think this has got to be point guard.
Looks like Hawk has the pick again, so we'll head right back to him.
With the 21st pick of the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the San Antonio Stampede select Michael Bryston III, point guard from Toledo, Ohio. So there it is, Gish. You talked about it again. You're starting to call him a little bit here. They needed a point guard. Michael Bryston was on the board. That's a really good point guard to go and get for San Antonio here in the second round, because we had hearing a lot of rumors about him going in the first round, and a lot of interest there. To land a point guard of his caliber here in the second has got to make the San Antonio faithful real happy here.
Yeah, absolutely. Bryston, 11 points, 3 assists per game. A guy who's been around in a lot of sim leagues, really big presence.
Yeah.
6 of 13 from 3. So I mean, just on the court and off the court, someone who can bring you a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And I think honestly it'll be a good the two pickups by San Antonio are a good pairing, I think, because Tez is a bit of a quiet person, stays out of the media spotlight. Michael Bryston loves that spotlight, and so you get a chance to have somebody who can shoulder that load, and they'll both be exceptional players on the court, but just a little bit different in temperament to help spread things out and bring San Antonio to the next level.
Well, that brings us to Michigan now, right? Michigan, in the first round took Tim Riggins. So small forward off the board was a great pick for Michigan. We weren't really sure what they were doing. I think that's a home run with Riggins. Obviously, it's a very safe pick with Riggins because they're getting a complete package. What are you guys thinking about here with Michigan, the Killer Bees, here in the second after taking a small forward in the first?
Well, again, the obvious would be that they go to try and pick up a shooting guard, but we've seen a lot of squads not do that. There's some great options still on the board at shooting guard at this point. Like, just all kinds of different folks that you could pick up.
Yeah, this could be a Chalakovich, a Puffin stuff if they want to go defensively. Yeah, I agree. I think shooting guard would be the move here, and I think those two guys we just listed are the top two guys. Nick Hill may be another potential option. Joey Phillips. So, a couple options if they're looking shooting guard. Do you think, Ralek, if they're not going shooting guard?
Maybe we go back to the tried and true rumor we heard, and they called Dante Ali. That was a huge rumor for the first round, and didn't end up coming true. So maybe they go back and get him since he's still on the board.
Absolutely.
Sounds like Hawk has the pick again, so we go back to him again.
With the 22nd pick here in the second round of the Gold Standard Basketball Season 1 Draft, the Michigan Killer Bees select Dante Ali, a small forward from Cape Town, South Africa. So there you go, right? Like you just said it. Obviously, the rumors were big. Instead of having to go get him in the first, now they go get him in the second, which is I think for you, I think you like that a lot better in the second than you would the first for Dante Ali, but it's a good pick still here at this point in the draft.
Yeah, it's an absolutely great pick. He's definitely worth this pick. He would have been worth the first as well. So the ability to get him here in pick 22 just is a huge get for this Michigan squad.
Yeah, another guy who's a huge presence, obviously, around the Sim League community, and a guy who on the court was really solid in the prospect games. 10 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a lot from the small forward position. Just really solid player.
Yeah, so now we go to Portland again, and this is the extra pick they picked up here, or maybe it's their pick again. But
No, this is their native. This is their native
so
pick.
this is the pick here for Portland on the clock now, and so their second pick of this round. So now they've got a couple guys on their team. The trades have worked out for Portland, and they're going to be able to go get another guy they really like here in the second, which is a big thing.
Yeah, they've done a lot already with picking up Bismack and picking up Josh Young 2.0. So they're kind of in a lot of ways setting the tone of this draft.
Yeah, if we talk about early winners, Gish, you think Portland's on that list right now?
Absolutely. Similar to New York, another team who's been willing to jump around and find the guys that they want when they know they can get them. And just looking at their team build so far, I would be shocked to see anything other than center here.
Yeah, we're getting to that point where you want to make sure you've got the big man to help make sure it's all going to go smooth, and that is the big hole that they've got right now to fill.
So center's the one. What do they have on their roster right now? Josh Young 2.0 was that small forward they took there. What else do they got, with the staff position-wise?
Yeah, they've got Velez to pair up with Bismack at shooting guard, Rashidi Ish to pair up with Young at small forward, and then AC Law at point guard and Braden Hart just at power forward. So 2 shooting guards, 2 small forwards, but no center. And looking at some of those top centers, I think this is maybe the time we start looking at, guys like Gleasack and Angelo Marciano.
Shane Lloyd again, if you want the defensive specialist, Jim C. Williams.
Yeah, there's some big
Ernesto
boys
Romero, another guy I keep seeing talked about in the chat. Another defensive specialist. So lots of good options at center here.
There's some big guys left, right? Like, Williams, Ernesto Romero. Those are some big players, big bodies in there. Marciano's a guy
physically imposing, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what they go here. You guys think the consensus is center?
All right. It looks like we have the pick, and it is all set up, so Hawk will announce it.
With the 23rd pick of the Gold Standard Basketball Season 1 draft, the Portland Pioneers select Pharaoh Dotson, a center from Key West, Florida. So Dotson, guys, is the center that goes. They did go center, and they go to Pharaoh Dotson here. Thoughts on the pickup? Obviously, Dotson was released from Vice City staff back into the draft pool, but now picked up here in the second round by Portland.
Huge get. I think, honestly, that the reason it didn't come up in my mind is I'd already spoken for him on Vice City. I was still making that mistake. So this is just an absolutely great get, and I love this pick for Portland. Huge value here.
Definitely really good in terms of off the court. In the prospect games, maybe not the performances that Dotson wanted. Just 6 points, 8 rebounds, and really for a center was pretty inefficient, under 50% from the floor, but a lot of potential there. A lot of stuff for Portland to work with, and I don't think there's any reason why Dotson can't turn those numbers around.
Yeah, so that
especially with that front office, yeah.
Yeah, and that puts I believe that puts New York back on the clock, if I'm not mistaken now. For the last pick here, technically the last pick. We will have a supplemental pick here at the end of the second, but technically the last pick of the second round. And this draft will start to move a little bit faster as we get into the third round here. The first 2 rounds take a while. But now New York back to their native pick, end of the second round, as they did get the first pick in the lottery. They traded that away. But, where might New York be going with this pick here?
That's a Great question. They're they're a team who, again, has really been one of the big winners of the draft so far with Savage and Demora. And positionally, they don't have a big need. Um,
They can go best player available here for sure.
absolutely.
Well, you guys, and we talked about too, like New York was kind of a wild card coming in. They traded down. We didn't really know where they were going to go with it. Obviously, Ant and his staff do obviously have done a really good job. But to us as admin, they were one of the teams that we didn't hear too much about, right? But obviously, behind the scenes, they built a good draft and they've taken two really really good players. So another one of those teams that we're going to be talking about at the end as winners of this thing. But like you said, they can pretty much go anywhere they want. What about you guys? What do you feel like maybe the best available on the board still?
I mean, for me right now, there's a lot of guys that are elite role players still kicking around. I might be thinking about Slimer Puff and stuff. I might be thinking about Zima Blue. There's maybe even a world where you might want a Hojeris. So
Yeah, and then in terms of just guys who maybe some of the last star potential or immediate star potential guys anyway, Chalakovich and Twinkle Toes Jr. still out there as two of the top offensive performers from the
yeah,
game.
Twinkle still being out there is kind of amazing to me. I expected him to be high up there.
Yeah, and Zima
just
Blue is one of my
made-
favorite guys. Zima Blue has
Yeah.
been one of my favorite throughout this entire process. So I'm really surprised personality-wise. I think he's a really good personality, which you would want in a locker room. So I'm surprised he's still not there. But yeah, I mean, like there's a ton of talent still left on the board. But we'll just go right to the pick. I think it's already in, so we'll just go right to it here. And New York's going to make their second round and the last pick here, the second. So with the 24th pick in the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the New York Skyliners select Xavier Ali, a shooting guard from Berlin, Germany. So there you go, guys. Xavier Ali going here at the bottom of the second round. That'll put Vice City into a supplemental pick here as they came in with 3 staff. But what do you guys think about the Xavier Ali pick for New York here? Maybe a little bit of a risky pick, but they've done a really good job so far. So
I think that it is one of those where it might not necessarily match conventional wisdom, but they definitely went out and got the guy they wanted, which I think has a lot more value. He's been very active and has done an exceptional job of making a name for himself here in the media circuit. So I think he'll do great and thrive here in this New York team.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a guy. The off the court presence there is there. It matches New York. On the court, I definitely have some questions after watching them prospect games. Just 29% from the floor. That shooting guard position, not not loving that part of it, but
But if they think they can develop him into something
Yeah.
that's much more efficient, then it's definitely a great choice.
absolutely.
for sure. Well, that's going to bring us to the supplemental pick here, and this is Vice City's pick for coming in with 3 staff members. Right, every team had 4 except Vice City. So the deal was to get a supplemental here at the end of the second round. It's the only one we have. So Vice City's going to go ahead and get that supplemental pick. But what do you guys maybe think that Vice City uses this one on? Because they don't pick again until 31, so they're going to have to go with somebody good here, because I think first they picked all the way at 1, right? This is their first pick since 1, where they got Al Pedraza. Where do you think they might go here with the supplemental?
Yeah, I mean, Pedraza filled them out, at all 5 positions. So definitely, like we've talked about with a couple teams now, lots of room to go best player available. And we've listed those guys over and over again, the guys who are still left, Blue, Puff and stuff, Chalakovich, Twinkle Toes. So yeah, definitely lots of good options here for Vice City.
Well, we'll go ahead and just head to their pick as well, as that pick is in. So we'll go ahead and head to that. And with the 25th pick, technically here, with the supplemental pick of the second round, the Vice City Kings select Justin Banks, a point guard from Albany, New York. So, guys, Justin Banks going here for Vice City, and that'll take us, to the third round. But Banks was a guy that had a couple good games in the prospect, but maybe a little bit of an unknown Gish. What do you think about Justin Banks, and what can you tell us?
Yeah, Banks is definitely an interesting pick. Not someone who I had really thought about when thinking about best available, but um, Vice City clearly went out and actually, now that I'm re-looking at their board, I realized they did not have a point guard. So prior to that pick, so I think an important pickup at the position for them for sure.
Well, it looks like Grizz likes the pick too. Rylock, he's saying, New York's going to lead the league in 3-pointers. Is that, something that Banks is going to give you here?
I mean, it might be. It's one of those where I think Banks is one of the most raw of the point guard talents, and so at a certain point that gives you the most room to grow them into exactly what you want. New York, I think, has a solid, or excuse me, Vice City has a solid idea of what they're going to be doing here. So I think that with good planning, they can get exactly the weapon they need. They may just not like the playstyle of some of the other point guards at this point.
For sure. Well, we're going to head to the third round. The clock going down to 3 minutes. It won't take much, as these picks have been kind of coming in already, as we're playing a little catch up here. But so they'll move a little quicker. The custom graphics will be a little done. We'll get those later to them. But through 2 rounds, I do want to take a look at one graphic as New York is going on the clock right now for the third round. To start the third round, I want to take a look back at Libertine's positional things and talk about maybe a couple guys still on the board. Brian Buckets is a guy at power forward. Shalizzy's a guy that we've talked about quite a bit at 6'6", a little undersized, Rylock, but a guy that we maybe thought might go in the first, second round. He's now here in the third.
Yeah, definitely is a big talent. I expect him to come off at some point here in the third, but we could see that be even more of a surprise. We've got Muddy Blunts as one of the shooting talents. Nick Hill is another one that's a big one in the shooting talents. Lots of folks here that will have a big impact for a team. It's just a matter of waiting to see who pulls the trigger.
Yeah, Gish. Anybody else on this list standing out? I mean, guys like Correctional Curator's another guy who's doing a good job. But undersized, I think that's the pattern we're starting to see around. Right? It's like undersized at the position. Maybe have to, kind of earn that.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I feel like we've talked so much about defense and guys, and teams looking for defensive specialists, and then I'm looking at this defenders list from Libs, and some of these guys still on the board, Puff and stuff, Shalizzy, Curator, Lloyd, Phillips, Tribble, all still on the board. So, teams that are looking for someone to make a defensive impact, there's a lot of options out there.
Yeah, well, let's head to the pick. The pick is in, and we'll head and get New York's third round pick. So with the 26th pick here in the third round of the Gold Standard Season 1 draft, the New York Skyliners select Angelo Marciano, a center from Italy. So Marciano, guys, is the pick here for New York. What do you guys think about it?
Another guy who I think fits the New York brand very well. There's the obvious ties, with Italy and New York City, always kind of paired together. And
yeah,
I think Marciano will fit right in the Big Apple.
It's a good fit for the culture. I also think that it helps just shore up that squad. It is always good to have another dangerous center, and prioritizing those big men gives you a huge foundation to work with.
Yeah, so that takes us back to Portland. Obviously, a team that we've felt has done really good in the draft so far. And a team, have they filled all their needs? Is there a position that you guys feel like they need to go to, or they might be leaning here?
They've definitely filled out pretty much everything. They've got 1 center, 2 shooting guards, 2 small forwards, and a power forward. I might be leaning power forward here just because it is something of a smaller crop,
yeah.
But we'll see how they do.
All right, let's head to that pick. That pick is in for sure for Portland here in the third round. So we'll go ahead and head. Quick, I just messed that up. So for Portland, and with the 27th pick here in the third round for the Portland Pioneers, they select Ho Jarris, a point guard. from East Rutherford, New Jersey. So Ho Jarrett's the pick here for Portland, guys. What are your thoughts? Obviously, we've talked about him a lot in the rounds prior to this. A guy that we thought could be a higher round than this, but it looks like Portland's still doing a really good job, and that's another really good pick.
Yeah, definitely getting the value on each of these drafts. I think they're just slightly ahead of the curve each time, and it's gonna be huge seeing what this team gets put together.
Yeah. Gish, Portland was a team that had ownership, lost ownership, had to bring in a couple of new guys with K-Town and B-Mills. Then they go get Mears on staff out there, and that's a really good staff out there in Portland. They're doing really big things for not being on the job too long. They've obviously come in and made a difference early here.
Yeah, absolutely. Jarris, another big personality off the court. Probably didn't have the performances he wanted in the prospect games. Actually, I know he didn't, because he let everyone know that he was looking for bigger things. But I think someone who can fit in and kind of fix some of the things that he may not have liked about his game early on.
Yeah, absolutely. 98 people in chat still. Thank you guys for being here and checking it out. We had 100 plus through 2 rounds. We're still got a lot of action left here in the draft. We got 6 rounds of action here, so we're gonna be here a little bit longer. Michigan now on the clock. The Killer Bees ready to pick their 3rd round pick. Let's just get right to it, as I think they're ready to go with their.
Sounds good.
So with the 28th pick here in the Season 1 Gold Standard Basketball Draft, the Michigan Killer Bees select Slimer Puffenstuff, a shooting guard from New York City, New York. So Slimer going here, guys. Tell me about what you guys think about the pick. Obviously, we've talked a ton about him as well, and the defense that he brings to a team. Michigan start making some really good picks here, and another team that I like that we may, kind of been like, we don't know where they're really going to go with their picks, and they've done a pretty good job so far.
Very much so. They've been a little bit of an enigma, but I like what they're doing. They're getting good value on their picks here, and this is going to bring some amazing lockdown to them in a way that should do a lot of work on their behalf.
Yeah, for sure. So Gish, Puffenstuff, a guy that had 8 steals in a game. That was the high and absolute crazy defensive performance. What is Michigan getting here in Puffenstuff?
Yeah, I mean, a defensive specialist. We've talked about it, said it about him all day. In a position of need, they didn't have a shooting guard yet, and only had the 1 point guard in Doc Boone. So, filling out that backcourt and getting a guy who is going to strike terror in the hearts of opposing guards for sure.
Strike terror. I mean, eight steals. You better be on your A game if you're any point guard playing against Puffenstuff at any point here.
Absolutely.
So that brings us to, I believe that brings us to San Antonio here in the 3rd round. Let's talk a little bit about San Antonio, another group that had an ownership change, had to bring guys in. They actually just purchased the team this week. So they've had the interim tag. Now that is off, that is their team. And, San Antonio has done a pretty good job in this draft as well. As we look back, they've taken Bryston and Tez Green in the draft. So where might they be going here?
Yeah, I think this is an opportunity for best available. Absolutely. And just kind of looking at some of those guys, Zima Blue still out there.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking centers, Gleasack, Tyler Deathridge. Going down to shooting guard with guys like Chalakovich and Twinkle Toes. So lots of options here for sure.
There's still some really good talent on the board. Which is
amazing
crazy.
talent.
Some of these teams are going to be really good. Yeah, Zima is absolutely a guy that I feel like could be coming here soon. First time chatter, Nola, the perfect Rolo here. What's up, buddy? Thanks for joining in. He's hashtagging Vice City out here. So we're ready to roll. I think that San Antonio's pick is in, so let's go ahead and get to their pick here. And with the 29th pick here in the 3rd round of the Gold Standard Basketball Season 1 Draft, the San Antonio Stampede select Dominic Shalizzi, a power forward from Worcester, Massachusetts. So they go to Dominic Shalizzi, the undersized but absolutely rebounds the ball extremely well from the power forward position. Only stands 6'6", though, Rylock. Is that a concern maybe? Maybe why he's fallen here into the third round?
I think that would be the concern for sure because if he was just a little bit taller, like even 2 inches taller, I think he'd have gone around sooner for sure. But he's proven that he's able to do it at this point. So we'll see if he's able to do it as the position continues to develop.
Yeah, Gish, we're starting to see, some of those, I don't want to say specialists, but some of the guys that maybe kind of got overlooked due to size, due to some of those issues that, if, like Rylock said, a couple more inches, he may be going in the first round. We're starting to see some of those guys come off the board right now, the high potential picks, but maybe not the safest at this point.
Yeah, and we're starting to see some of the guys who are more of your guys who are going to be role players. We've seen a lot of the star potential guys come off the board as they should early, and now teams are looking for guys who can just come in and do a job.
Yeah, which is huge, right? You don't win championships unless you have role players on teams. You can't go get a bunch of scores and expect to win games, right? So
Absolutely.
it has to work in unison, and we're starting to see teams kind of take those role guys. Now it brings to Kentucky on the clock, who went with Scotty B. Pippen, one of those role guys we talked about, and Cam Mello with their first 2 picks. At this point, I don't really know where Kentucky's going to go with their pick, but I trust that Phoenix is going to make a decent selection here. Rylock, any thoughts there?
I mean, we're just going to keep at this for the entire rest of the draft. It's going to be best player available, whatever that means to each team. We're going to learn a lot about the identity for each squad here in this moment, and so I'm excited to see what it's going to be, but I have absolutely no clue what it might be.
For sure. Well, let's get to the pick. Kentucky's pick is in, so we're going to check out who the Kentucky Reserve get here in the third round. With the 30th pick in the third round of the Gold Standard Season 1 draft, the Kentucky Reserve select A.R. Jordan, a power forward from Starkville, Mississippi. So A.R. Jordan off the board here to Kentucky in the third round. That'll bring up Vice City back onto the board, but A.R. Jordan, a big body, power forward, I believe. Yes, so he is a 6'10" power forward. He had a pretty good prospect challenge as well, Rylock?
Yeah, definitely it was a solid outing, and I think this might be, we've seen 2 power forwards go in a row here. We might see a little bit of a run on this position.
Yeah, which is needed now, right? I guess. I mean,
Yeah, definitely one of the thinnest positions out there, and I think teams are starting to notice, and the teams that feel like they still need another guy at the 4 are getting them while they can.
Yeah, well, that brings back Vice City onto the clock. They got back-to-back picks here now in the third round. Vice City took Justin Banks for their supplemental, and then obviously the first pick of the draft was Al Pedraza. So now they're about to make their third pick here, and we'll see.
Followed immediately by their 4th, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, followed immediately by their 4th. The pick is in. Let's get to it. Let's see who Vice City takes here in the third. With the 31st pick in the Gold Standard Season 1 basketball draft, the Vice City Kings select Tyler Deathridge, a center from Kansas City, Missouri. Vice City is back on the clock. So Vice City takes Tyler Deathridge, the center from Kansas City. He was a late, I believe did he play a full slate of prospect games?
He did.
I believe he did. He came in
was a
early,
later
but
edition,
yeah. I think that that's a great choice, though. Another person to help Billy Bob Buckley hold down that center position and give them a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah. Gish, we start to see, like I said earlier, a lot of these stats are going to take a back row to some of these players, given the nature of how the league runs, right? Like it's a good idea to keep your players happy. So we might see them bring in a guy like Deathridge to start, right? So that could be big as well.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So back to Vice City. Vice City's still on the clock for their next pick. They get back-to-back here. This will be their 4th pick of the draft. Any thoughts, guys? I mean, best available here. Rylock, who's the best available on your board right now?
Zima Blue.
What about you, Gish?
Yeah, it's got to be Blue. The only other one I would consider is maybe Twinkle Toes, but Blue's definitely at the top of my board.
Well, let's check it out.
I mean, he's been at the top of my board for rounds now.
Yeah, well, that pick is in. Let's see who Vice City's getting. These picks are coming in. Well, props to all the owners and people and staffs for getting these in. But let's head to see who Vice City picks here. The 32nd pick in the third round of the Gold Standard Season 1 draft, the Vice City Kings select Zima Blue, small forward from Lusaka, Zambia. So there you go, guys. Zima Blue is off the board. Absolute steal here for Vice City in the third round. I had him as the early second round grade. This is a guy that can really fill it up from the small forward position and do a lot of really good things.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Gish, on? Or go ahead, Rylock. Yeah, thoughts on Zima Blue and just kind of.
He just had a great showing during the prospect games and just really passed the eye test for me. A lot of it was just.
Hold on, guys. I'm getting a call. I'm gonna step away.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Rylock.
He definitely looked the part for sure, and it was one of those where I've just been waiting for him to go. This was a great pick by this Vice City squad, and he'll make an instant impact out there on the court.
Yeah, well, we just saw Gish get a call. Seattle's on the clock now. We know who Gish's player is. Are we leaning towards something with that call? Is that foreshadowing here for
It
Gish?
might well be. This in some ways seems like it might be a little early. McGinty is one of those players that is again a little physically limited, but it might be a time where you take those risks and make it happen. And he still isn't back, so that would be my best guess for sure. Apparently he is back.
He is back. Let's check out who Seattle is picking here. Go ahead, Gish. Do you got something to say?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That call was yeah.
Was that your agent? Gish's agent on the phone. Let's see who Seattle picks here in the third. With the 33rd pick in the third round of the Gold Standard Basketball Season 1 draft, the Seattle Orcas select Brennan McGinty, a point guard from Richland Springs, Texas. So there he is. Gish is off the clock, off the board.
I love this pick. Steal of the draft. Great pick by Seattle.
We're going to give Gish a moment here to talk about his player and why this is such a good pick for Seattle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, McGinty's going to bring a scrappy presence, smallest player in the league, not afraid of anything. I mean, the guys who've been in Blacktop this week, they've seen me. I'm dishing the ball out to all my teammates, 3 or 4 assists in some of these, just really short Blacktop games. And I may be small, but any guard who overlooks me is going to have their pocket picked. Absolutely.
Rylock, how good of a pick here. Undersized, but Brennan McGinty isn't a good assist guy. He's got those quick hands and he's quick on the court.
I think that it's going to be one of those where as McGinty matures into this, he's definitely going to be a very valuable player. He's just very raw right now, in my estimation. I think the fact that he's going to be able to have some help assigned as far as defensive matchups will help make up for some of the height limitations. He's just going to have to develop a very interesting game plan.
For sure. Well, that brings back Memphis on the clock here. And Memphis, former picks here, they haven't drafted since round 1, I believe, right? So this is only their second pick of the draft now. They took Bobby Bricks, number 2 overall. Obviously, they traded up to get that. They gave away quite a bit. Portland got that extra pick. But now we're going to see Memphis picking their second pick after Bobby Bricks. And now we could talk about maybe they do need maybe something here, Rylock. As they only have drafted 1. They don't have 5 players on their team yet. Is there anything that stands out to you that maybe they're looking for, positional wise? What makes sense?
What makes sense? Let me go back and find it here. Right now they've got a lot of small forward going, and the thing that might make sense at this point, we're getting a little bit short on quality at the center. Maybe that might be where they go, or it could be just absolutely anything they see as best overall. Still, they do have a need at point guard potentially, but they may expect Shiloh Marino to play down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
I'd
see.
also call out power forward as being another position where the depth is getting thin.
Well, let's see. It looks like Memphis has made their pick, so let's talk about who the Blues are going to go here in the third round. With the 34th pick here in the third round of the Gold Standard Basketball Season 1 draft, the Memphis Blues select Just Blaze, a power forward from the Bronx, New York. So Just Blaze, this is another guy, guys, that I actually had higher on my board. He's a sneaky pick here and a tough guy that's going to fit that Memphis persona.
I like this one. Going in and getting the power forward you like at this point is a great option, and definitely a solid way to help build up that big man presence.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a teammate of Legend Killer in a different league, I can tell you he's going to bring a great off the court presence for them and over there in Memphis, and a guy who can actually he can match their energy pretty well. What they're building over there in Memphis, I like this pick a lot.
I had heard some rumors that Dallas might be looking for him, but looks like Memphis got there first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rylock, if Mitch wants to come in and talk about Scout Mitchell, I'm open to doing that if he wants to.
All right. I'm
But
sure
after
he
this
does.
pick, let's get to the pick for Ohio real quick as they're on the clock, and then while you work on that, maybe Scout wants to come in and talk about that.
Sounds good.
With the 35th pick in the third round, Gold Standard Basketball Season 1 draft, the Ohio Shamans select Joey Phillips, a shooting guard from Newark, New Jersey. So there's Joey Phillips. Obviously, guys, we all had him a lot higher on our board. Gish, steal here. That's steal worthy for Ohio here at the back end of the third round.
Yeah, absolutely. A guy who's definitely a little underrated defensively in my eyes. And just kind of overall, I think a lot of the staffs might have been overlooking him, but a guy who brings pretty good size to the shooting guard position and just really solid player.
Yeah, for sure. Phillips was a guy that I had high on my board for his scoring ability, but also for his ability to be marketable. I think he's a really good personality. I've known him for a really long time, and I think that he's a really good pick for a team like Ohio. Gish, we got some guys in the chat still haven't been picked. They're still hanging out with us. One of them was Derek Freeman. He said he led the tournament in free throw attempts, averaged 12, 5, and 4. Still not being talked about. He's going to – and now we're getting into territory, guys, where these guys are going to have chips on their shoulder coming in. And this is probably my favorite part of the draft when we get into the middle to late rounds, because these guys are going to want it a lot when they head to the team that gets them.
We do have a Scout Mitchell sighting, so I'll bring him in presently.
Awesome. Scout, what's up? Congratulations on being picked into the Gold Standard Basketball League. How do you feel about going to Ohio in your landing spot? Do we have
We might have a mic difficulty here. I brought him in.
Yo,
What's up,
There
man?
we go.
Hey, what's up, Scott?
what was the question?
I said, tell me about how you feel. I said, congratulations first on being drafted into Gold Standard Basketball. How do you feel about Ohio and the situation you're going into with the Shaman?
Man, I'm really hyped. I mean, I think there's been a lot of rumors about me potentially being an owner. That possibility is still up in the air, so I think that kind of hurt my draft stock a little. I heard some rumors about that, but ultimately, working out, I have great team chemistry with Troy and Rusty. I know them really well, and I've talked to them many times. I was just on a VC with them right now in a server. I'm going to probably most likely be a scout. We're already mapping out our next picks, and actually I'm on their draft board right now, so I have access to everything. But yeah, really excited to be picked by them, and yeah, we're going to be doing big things at Ohio. Watch out for the Shaman.
Well, hold it right there, Mitch. We'll let these guys ask you a couple questions. Let's get Oakland's third round pick real quick, and we'll come back to you.
All right, let's go.
With the 36th pick here in the third round of the GSB Season 1 draft, the Oakland Otters select Dan Gleasack, center from the USA. So Dan Gleasack off the board, guys. Talk about this real quick, and then we'll get back to Scout. Gleasack, obviously a pick that we talked about a little earlier as well, but a big body and a well-known name around these parts.
This makes a ton of sense given that Oakland had basically let the position fall by the wayside a little to pick up guards. They needed a big presence to help back up for Storm, and I honestly am a little surprised that it wasn't a small forward here. Again, they must be expecting Stank to fill that in, but it definitely helps fill in the holes that they left themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gish, a little bit about what they took here in Phillips and what they're getting.
Yeah,
Or,
going with
Gleasack,
Gleasack.
sorry.
Yeah, going with Gleasack here at the center. The center position is running out, and I think they got one of the solid ones left. I think maybe even my top one left, honestly, with a guy in Gleasack who was quiet. Was a little quiet in the prospect games, just 4 points and 6 rebounds, but felt like there was a lot more that to come from him. So I think a solid pickup from Seattle.
All right, Mitch, last question here for you and Scout Mitchell. What are you going to bring to the Ohio Shaman organization, and what can they expect from you moving forward here?
Being a second-round pick, obviously there's a lot of expectations. Big thing they want from me is just activity and presence. I'm already one of the top most active guys in this entire Discord and GSB, and they like my graphic skills a lot. They've seen what I've done with Gold Report, all the graphics in Gold Report, and all the graphics I've already made for them. And also they think I'd be a good scout for them as well. They could definitely potentially see me helping scout for them and pointing out key guys. I will say I already made a pick already for them. I already just suggested a guy, and they're about to take him because of my suggestion. And I already DM'd the guy, and he originally didn't want to play for Ohio, but because I got drafted to Ohio, he was really hyped that I was in the team, and he changed his mind, and he really hyped about the possibility of teaming up together with Ohio. So I think just a thought of just a name of me being on the squad really makes a big difference, and I feel like just the presence of me in the squad could intrigue a lot of guys and just interest a lot of different people on the team.
For sure. Well, Scout, congratulations again for getting drafted in the GSB. We're looking forward to seeing what you do with Ohio, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so hyped. Let's go, Ohio. Thanks for having me on.
All right, buddy.
I'll see you
All right, have
later.
a good one. Yep.
Have a good one. Let's go, baby.
See you later. Here we go. Dallas's pick, the end of the third round, is in. Let's take a look at who the Flying Stallions are going with at the end of the third round. With the 37th pick of the third round, the final pick of the third round, the Dallas Flying Stallions select Matt Phillips, a center from Washington, D.C. So there
Good
goes
pickup.
Phillips off the board, right?
Matty P is a great pickup here.
Yeah, really good pickup as we head into the fourth round. We're starting to see some value picks here. And I will say that I think that Dallas has done a phenomenal job with their staff. Obviously, Pizzo is a very active owner, and he's done a really good job. And obviously has put a ton of thought into who these picks are going to be. He's made a trade already to, ensure that he gets his guys Gish. And what do you kind of assess as we head into the fourth round, as Dallas is still on the clock in the snake draft? What are you kind of assessing their draft so far?
Yeah, I really like what they've done so far. They've gone for guys who, maybe weren't the most talked about guys, but guys who I think will fill really good roles for them. They've got the defensive stopper in Kanan Abel, the high volume scorer and Toby Nur, and now really solid center and Matt Phillips.
For sure. Well, that'll take us to the fourth round, Rylock, and
It will. Halfway through. Let's go.
Yeah, we're halfway through. These picks are still coming in good. We're going to be able to get these picks quite quickly here in the fourth round. But now is, like I said, my favorite time of the draft, where we start to see some really good value picks. And in a league like ours, Rylock, any one of these guys can end up being the star of a franchise.
Absolutely. There's a lot of room for these people to emerge in a big way. These are the folks where the value is really going to be a big swing where they can grow into a lot more than we know that they are already.
Yeah, Gish, into the fourth round, how important is it now to nail these picks? Obviously, those top picks were very important, but you're getting guys that can, market your brand and do this. These are kind of the meat and bones now that will win you championships. So how important is this?
We've said a couple times, this is really where the great teams separate themselves from the good teams. You can have a good team with just a star or two, but if they don't have the right role players around them, it's hard to get over that hump. So making the right picks in these last 3 rounds are really important for these teams.
Yeah, well, let's head to the fourth round. The beginning of the fourth round, Dallas has their pick in. And with the 38th pick, the first pick of the fourth round, Dallas Flying Stallions select Pookie Seymour, a small forward from Conakry, Guinea. So Pookie Seymour coming off the board here for Dallas. This is a guy I actually like too. I believe he was a leader or near the leaderboard in a couple of the stats in kind of a player, guys, that is out of his position at small forward. He does a lot of things that small forwards. I believe it was blocks that he was up there in. So at the small forward position, being a leader in prospect games at blocks, you're getting a really good lockdown at small forward, right, Locke?
I definitely agree. He's a person that I think is a perfect example of what you're looking for here in the fourth. It's somebody who doesn't necessarily have a big name already, but has the potential to easily get up to the point where he's very recognizable.
Yeah, Gish, what about you?
Yeah, he was a guy who kind of struggled scoring the ball. Was just shot the ball at 23%, but I mean, had 3 assists per game, almost a steal per game, and almost a block per game. So, I think getting drafted to a place like Dallas, who where he doesn't have to come out and be the guy, that'll allow him to focus on some of those other parts of his game that he already showed off. It may help where he doesn't have to worry about being the main scorer.
Yeah, for sure. Getting guys that can be put into good positions at their role is very important here. But yeah, I mean that's a really good role player for Dallas. I really love that pick. But Oakland is back on the clock. Obviously, as their pick comes in, they've taken Dan Gleesack here. They took Javier Munoz and they took Jabroni. So they went pretty guard heavy early. Then they took a center. You said, right, like you've been saying, they need a small forward kind of at some point.
Yeah.
They need to go after a small forward. It seems like Stank's going to go there, but they need maybe a backup for Stank or even a starter at the position.
Right. I mean, that would be the logical option here for sure. We'll see if they manage to do it or if they're just squirrely otters.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting, and I think Derek Freeman, was a guy who spoke up in the chat earlier about why he's still on the board, and I think that would be a good pickup here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's take a look at who Oakland's going to pick here in the fourth round. With the 39th pick, in the fourth round of the GSB Season 1 draft, the Oakland Otters select Black Dynamite, a small forward from Gainesville, Georgia. So there you go, Rylock. The small forward is in for Oakland. It's Black Dynamite. Tell me what you know about him.
I mean, the big thing is that he's been one of the Otters' biggest proponents in the chat. So this pick feels like a little bit of a repayment of some loyalty here. He's been a big supporter, and now it's coming full circle.
Yeah, Gish, you got a little stats on Black Dynamite. I know that he's active. He's redeemed some of those channel points. I know that. He's an active player. Tell me what else you know about Black Dynamite besides the fact that he has an awesome name.
Yeah, he was a guy who averaged a little more than 9 points a game. It didn't really rebound the ball much, but that can be fine at the small forward position. Depending on what your bigs look like. He was a guy he was pretty efficient. I mean, shot 57% from the floor. Showed the ability to step out and hit some threes. So the Otters are getting a solid player at the small forward position.
Yeah. So now we go back to Ohio and recap Ohio while their pick is coming in here. Ohio went with Joey Phillips in the last round at shooting guard, which is a great pick. They've also gone with Scout Mitchell, who we just had on, and Jerry Philbin in the first round. So a pretty good day, Rylock, so far for Chairman Machera and the rest of his, Rusty and Glass and the staff they got out there in Ohio.
Yeah, I really like what they've done here so far. It's been a great pickup. Like getting Joey Phillips deep in the third round just feels like an immense amount of value. So lots of room for them to take pretty much anything they still feel like they need. I might start looking at point guard as the backup for Aldo, but we'll see where they go.
Yeah, well, their pick is in. Let's go ahead and head over there and see who Ohio's got here in the fourth. With the 40th pick in the Season 1 GSB draft, the Ohio Shaman select Jordan Tribble, a center from Kansas City, Missouri. Memphis Blues are back on the clock. So Jordan Tribble is the pick here for Ohio, guys. You said they might want to back up for Aldo, but honestly, Jordan Tribble was a guy we had maybe going in the second round. So, he had draft grades on mock drafts as high as the second. So, by the looks of it, that's still worth it here for Ohio.
Oh, very much. Everything is worth it here. There aren't going to be any wasted picks. Even the sixth round has
Absolutely.
immense value in this format, so there's not going to be any wasted picks. Just value all the way down.
For sure. Well, that puts Memphis back on the clock, Gish, and talk about who Memphis has picked so far and maybe what you like for them in this situation here.
Yeah, Memphis is really interesting. We've seen them take Bobby Bricks and Just Blaze. Some of the trades they did, they're a little bit behind in terms of the number of picks made so far. But this is a team that still doesn't have a point guard. And maybe that's something that they're looking at Shiloh Marino for, but I'd really like to see them go point guard here. And I mean the point guard ranks are getting a little thin, but we've got guys like EJ Bailey, Josh Shiren had
a really good prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Muddy
there's
Blunt's a really good shooter.
Yeah, a lot of talent still there.
Yeah, there's some really good point guards left, guys. And, if you're looking for point guard, obviously EJ Bailey is a guy that had a good game. Aaron Hughes is a guy that hit 6 threes in a game. He was a little inconsistent, but he showed that he could shoot it a little bit. So we'll see what they go here. Overall wise, Bryce Lee's the best available point guard on the board. So we'll see what Memphis does here with this pick as it is in. Let's head and check out Memphis pick. With the 41st pick of the GSB Season 1 draft, the Memphis Blues select Nick Hill, a shooting guard from Galveston, Texas. So Nick Hill going here to Memphis. That's a good pick for Memphis because Nick Hill, started off. He was one of the first guys actually created here, but he has been a good active person and showed potential, Gish. And I think that's where we're getting here in the 4th and 5th. We're getting into those flashes of potential that guys might see a really good future for.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We were, expecting a point guard, but when you look at what Nick Hill did in the prospect games, averaged just under 10 points a game, and about 3.5 assists per game. So maybe like what they're expecting on Marino, another shooting guard who could slide over and fill a role at that point guard position. So not the point guard we were expecting, but a solid pick for Memphis.
And it might end up being the point guard they deserve. We'll see.
Yeah, it does send us to Seattle here for their 4th round pick. And if we look at Seattle's board, right, Mario Medici in the first, Shane Knox, they went back-to-back centers. And then they went Brendan McGinty in the 3rd. Obviously, Gish loves that one.
Tall, small.
The prodigal son goes here in the 3rd. They've got Jason Snyder, Dub Stern, Steel Stern, and Coco Raccoon on the roster still. That makes sense to go if they're looking for positional fits. It's going to be small forward or power forward probably here. And if you look on the board, right, guys like Derek Freeman make a lot of sense here.
Absolutely. There's a lot of talent. We keep saying Freeman's name. We're just waiting for him to go.
Well, let's head. I think Seattle's got it in. So let's go ahead and head to Seattle and see who they have here in the fourth round. In the fourth round, the 42nd pick of the GSB Season 1 draft, Seattle Orcas select Oscar Oden, a shooting guard from St. Louis, Missouri. So they go shooting guard here, guys, which gives them 3 shooting guards on the roster. They're playing a little small ball. I think that gives them 3 shooting guards on the roster, right? So,
just 2.
Oh, just 2. So they go for positional fit. They go to Oscar Oden. It's funny because Steel Stern and Oscar Oden were actually on the same team in the Prospect Challenge. And Steel Stern was giving him a hard time in that Prospect Challenge about getting lit up by a couple guys defensively. Gish, what's your take on that? Stern, obviously an owner in Seattle, but he's bringing in a guy that, maybe responded to some criticism the way he wanted him to.
Yeah, I was going to say that tells me that he liked the way that Odin responded to what he was saying, and you kind of talked about it. Odin really struggled from the floor in the prospect games, just 31%, just 1 of 9 from 3, but averaged nearly a steal per game, about 2 assists per game. So maybe another guy who can contribute some things outside the scoring, and playing on a team where he might not have to be the number 1 option, similar to what we saw, with like Pookie Seymour, it might allow him to kind of settle into a role and not have to worry about scoring so much.
Yeah, so Oscar Oden goes there to Seattle. That heads back to Vice City for their 4th round pick. Let's take a look at some who they've picked so far. In the 3rd round, they picked back-to-back. They had Deathridge and Zima Blue, which are 2 really, really good picks. They got Justin Banks in the supplemental pick, and then the first pick overall, obviously, Al Pedraza. So when we're looking at Vice City, they got 3 centers on the roster. So they might be needed to go guard here. It looks like they're pretty guard thin. They got a point guard and a shooting guard, but those 2 positions make the most sense to me right now, Rylock.
Yeah, I'd agree. The 2 centers definitely makes it feel like going guard makes sense, but they could try and shake things up. They do like to play tall ball there, so maybe a power forward makes a lot of sense too. We're still getting to the into the last half of that class as well.
Yeah, well, let's see. Vice City's pick is in. Let's see who they take here in the 4th. With the 43rd pick, the GSB Season 1 draft, the Vice City Kings select correctional curator center from Memphis, Tennessee. So this is an interesting pick, guys, as curator's a guy that was kind of all over draft boards, right? Like, had him really high in the 2nd. We've also had him really low, and it comes back to being 6'7" as a center, but just an athletic freak, Gish. We've seen highlight plays from him the entire Prospect Challenge. This is a guy that could blossom into a really good player for Vice City.
Yeah, really interesting player. Like you said, was all over the place. 9 points per game, and got to the free throw line a lot. 16 free throws in 3 games. Just showed willingness to kind of get inside and sacrifice his body. But we talked about with Vice City already having 2 centers. This screams not sticking at center to me for correctional curator.
Yeah, he might end up going down to power forward, which might be a more natural fit for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to go to power forward for him. So we'll see what Vice City does with them having, those 2 other centers on there. But now we're back to Vegas. Vegas, so far, Vegas has picked Greg Lake, Devin Davis this is only their 3rd pick of the draft now with some of those trades, right? So Vegas is now back on the clock for the first time in a while. Last pick, they picked Devin Davis. So, there's some guys here. Obviously, this is a team that does have a couple point guards on the roster already, so they could be looking to go elsewhere. A guy that makes sense to me, couple guys, Derek Freeman and Twinkle Toes Jr. at those wing spots, Rylock.
I mean, we still have Chalakovich, and just like a ton of really deep talent. Quan Wulong Chi, Ernesto Romero, Bryce Lee, Kobe Johnson. The list is enormous at this point.
Absolutely. Well, let's head to Vegas. Vegas has their pick in. Let's see who they're going to take here in the 4th round. So with the 44th pick of the GSB Season 1 draft, the Las Vegas Jokers select Almedin Cholakovic, a shooting guard from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Sorry. So there's Cholakovic there. We talked about him, Rylock. Was a late addition to the class, but in his only game, I believe he had 18 points and showed off some really good skill.
Yeah, now we've got the reserve on the clock.
Yeah, Cholakovic, 18 points, was 6 of 7 from the field, 4 for 4 from 3. Only had the one game to show it off, but got a lot of the owners talking, and that's a great pickup for Vegas.
Yeah, so you mentioned it, right? Like onto the clock to Kentucky. Tell me a little bit about what they've done while I get their pick in here, and maybe somebody else that makes sense for them too.
Sure thing. Well, so far they've got Cam Mello, Scotty B. Pippen, and A.R. Jordan. They've got a little bit of everything, so I imagine they're going to continue to go places they haven't doubled up. They've got 2 small forwards and 2 power forwards, which leaves them a shooting guard at center and a point guard is the most likely. We keep saying the same names because there's just so many people here. But maybe a center like Jim C. Williams if they need that big body. The Giant is still on the board. Just trying to think about folks that are a little bit different, but might appeal to the particular taste of our Kentucky Reserve squad.
Yeah, well, let me ask you a question, Rylock. The 2 big players on the board are Romero and Jim C. Williams, the big bodies, right? And they're still not taken yet. Is there some concern with the speed of those players, maybe as we get on in progression, maybe not being able to keep up with some of these, guys like Curator that can, run around at center there?
Yeah, I think that must be part of the concern. But we'll see how that plays out. I think the folks who take the chance on him are going to be well rewarded for it.
For sure. Well, let's head to see Kentucky's pick. With the 45th pick in the 4th round of the GSP Season 1 draft, the Kentucky Reserve select Sasha Petrovic, a shooting guard from Croatia. So Sasha Petrovic off the board here for Kentucky. That brings us back to San Antonio. Sasha Petrovic is a guy who has some potential gish to be able to hit the long ball. I don't know quite what his ceiling is. It's probably a 3-and-D guy at this level, but it's a guy that could shoot the ball. Wasn't too consistent, but has the potential to shoot the ball well.
Yeah, definitely a guy who was not afraid to go out there and try and be a big scorer in the prospect games, and had some stretches where he really looked like he was a guy who's going to be a top scorer. Obviously a guy who's really active off the court, and now I'm looking at his stats. He still managed to average 12 points a game.
Yeah.
And his shooting numbers are actually a little bit better than I remember them being. Almost 52% from the floor and 46% from 3. So definitely a solid pickup for the reserve.
Yeah, absolutely. That brings us to San Antonio on the board. And, San Antonio, let's go ahead and see. Their pick is in. They're quick. San Antonio's ready to go. So let's go ahead and see who the Stampede take here in the 4th. With the 46th pick of the 4th round here, the GSB Season 1 draft, the San Antonio Stampede selects Shane Lloyd, a center from Indiana. So Shane Lloyd, guys, Rylock, that's a guy you really liked and you have talked about quite a bit in this draft. Why do you like Shane Lloyd so much, and what's he going to do here for the Stampede?
Definitely going to make a big splash defensively. I think he was one of the people that was on both the defending and rebounding lists that Libs put out, and so should have a big impact trying to shut down the paint for that squad there. I think it's a great pickup.
Yeah, so that brings us to Michigan now. Michigan Killer Bees are on the clock. Michigan has had a pretty good draft, in my opinion. They've taken Tim Riggins, Dante Ali, Slimer Puff and stuff, and now they find themselves here in the 4th. But 3 really good picks so far. 2 small forwards and a shooting guard, which leaves them a little hole. They can go a couple different places here. They can go point guard. They can go center here. Both are needs for both those teams. They got a lot of flexibility in the middle there with 2, so that'll help them a little bit. But there's some centers on the board I like for Michigan. Gish, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, yeah, definitely still some solid centers. We've talked a lot about Jim C. Williams, Ernesto Romero still sitting there. Uh, Also want to call out Wired for the 5 subs. I
Yes,
think he
thank
was
you.
excited to see
Thank
Petrovic
you,
come off the
Thank you, Wired.
board.
Appreciate that.
But yeah, definitely some good options here for Michigan. A lot of flexibility for them right now.
Yeah.
If I can just take a quick moment, shout out to everyone who's still in chat with us. I'm running
Absolutely.
the back end of a lot of this, so I can't be in chat to see y'all. But
96.
appreciate all 96 of you. Let's frickin' go.
We've been 100.
Just
We've been
amazing.
pretty much 100 strong the entire stream. We're headed on the 2 hours and 45 minutes now.
Yeah.
It's a long draft. We warned you guys it'd be long, but it is. People have been really good here and stuck with us, and I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Let us know in the chat if you guys are enjoying it. If you think that the live draft was a great idea. If it wasn't, I think it's been a good success so far. Long, but a good success. I think it adds a lot. But let's go ahead and head to Michigan's 4th round pick here. So with the 47th pick of the 4th round, the Michigan Killer Bees select Bryant Buckets, a power forward from Fort Worth, Texas. So Bryant Buckets off the board. He's another guy, Rylock, that was on some of those lists that, we're starting to see guys that now are determined specialists come off the board, and Bryant Buckets is one of those guys.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting pick here that makes them very heavy at the power forward. They've got 3 on the roster now, so someone is going to be living at a slightly less usual position. I don't know whether they're going to look to move someone up to the center or down to small forward, but it'll be interesting to see how it works.
Yeah, some flexibility with some of those guys, right? They could probably play either or on there. So it looks like they're playing the flexibility route with their picks here. That brings Portland back to the clock, Gish. And if we look kind of at Portland's draft so far, obviously I think they're an A. I'm giving them an A so far. Bismack, Josh Young, Pharaoh Dotson, and Ho Jarris by them. So
Yeah, absolutely. They've done a great job, and kind of looking at what they need. I think a big body, whether that's power forward or center. I think Buckets actually would have been a great pick for them. But there's Jim C. Williams I think would be a good pick. Anthony Simmons, a big power forward who I think could kind of fill just that role of a big body for Portland.
yeah, so you're thinking big body here. You're thinking power forward for them, or
Quarter center, yeah, just someone big.
yeah. Well, let's see. Portland's pick is in. Let's go ahead and see who the Pioneers are going to take here in the 4th round. With the 48th pick of the Gold Standard Basketball Season 1 draft, the Portland Pioneers select Rayshon Carter, a power forward from Houston, Texas. So, Gish, you got the big body. It's not a couple of guys you said, but Rayshon Carter is the pick here for Portland. What do you think about their pick as Vegas is now back on the clock?
Yeah, I think it's I think that's what they needed. Like you said, not necessarily the guys I was looking at, but Carter brings good size at 6'10" to the power forward position, and was one of the highest overall guys still sitting on the board. Trying to find his prospect game stats to pull up here, but yeah, a solid pick.
Yeah, Rylock now headed back to Vegas. Another pick on the board for the Jokers. We don't need to keep naming the same guys, but positional wise, let's start doing some of that. What is Vegas looking at? Maybe some needs positionally.
Well, the implication is they don't need a shooting guard. They don't need a point guard. But there's a lot of room past that. We'll see where they go. I think those are the 2 I don't expect to see.
Okay, well, let's see what they do here. Their pick is in Vegas, and we'll head and see who they pick. With the 49th pick, the last pick here in the 4th round, the Las Vegas Jokers select Rowdy Rhodes, a center from Portland, Oregon. So they go and get center. Rylock, you said that they didn't need some of those other positions. Center is a position they could have taken, and they go get Rowdy Rhodes there. I do know you were talking a little bit in chat. Was there some conversation around this pick?
It wasn't so much that there was conversation. It was just that it looked like they had reached a consensus, had to talk it out a little bit more, and then went back with the same pick nonetheless. So just a little bit of making sure they got the right guy, and I think they did.
Oh, awesome. Well, we'll head to the 5th round. I believe Correctional Curator was another guy that wanted to come in. So if you want to DM him and see if he wants to come chat, he's obviously been picked now, so he can come on and chat at any time as we head to the 5th round. We're just going to keep moving through this thing and mowing these down. So Dallas is back on the clock for the 5th round. This is the pick they got in that trade earlier with New York. This is New York's original spot. Dallas moves into it now. They flip-flopped here in the 5th. Basically, they just did a flip of those 2 rounds, right? So.
Yep.
So now Dallas is picking here at 50th, the 50th overall pick into the 5th round. And now we're going to get some guys that really are, as you see JT in chat, about to prove everybody wrong. Taking note of who's ahead of me. These guys are hungry now. And I absolutely love this part because I get to see who the talk is real and, kind of, who feels like they should have been taken higher and what they're going to do about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so many of the guys left have been with us the whole time in the stream and are making it known that they feel undervalued by some of the teams.
Definitely a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, and the great part about the league is, like I said, and I'm going to say it again, anybody can be a top guy. So even these guys in the 5th round could really prove guys wrong. So these GMs are really probably doing more hard work here in the 5th round than maybe in the 1st round, on the sense of you got to get the guys that you feel will help your franchise go. So let's go see who Dallas takes here with the first pick of the 5th. So with the 50th pick in the 5th round of the GSP Season 1 draft, the Dallas Flying Stallions select Perry Pinkard, a shooting guard from Woodbridge, Virginia. So Dallas goes to Perry Pinkard. I'm noticing a lot of trend, Rylock, with Pizzo. He's obviously done his homework a crazy amount because these are guys that we necessarily haven't stood out on paper to us. But if you know anything about Pizzo, you know he's doing everything he can right now to make sure these are the right guys, Rylock.
Right, and I like this pick. This is a really dedicated presence who I think is actually going to be a huge asset to any locker room that he's in. I'm super stoked for this pick and glad that Pizzo went and pulled this trigger.
For sure. That's going to bring Memphis back on the clock, Gish. And the Blues have had a pretty solid draft so far. It seems like they've picked guys that fit the Blues mentality pretty well, and Bobby Bricks, Just Blaze, and Nick Hill. So now they get their 4th pick of the draft after trading earlier. They're picking towards the back. The price has a price tag on paper so far stood out for being able to trade up that high to get Bobby Bricks. And, obviously their guy in Memphis has it worked in their favor so far as you're looking at their draft board?
I think they've done a good job of still getting value with their picks. At the same time, I imagine, in those 20 or so picks in between, I imagine there were some guys that they would have loved to have grabbed, but Bricks was one of the top guys, and clearly they were willing to pay that price.
Well, cool. Well, let's go see who they're going to pick next here in the 5th round. With the 51st pick of GSB Season 1 draft, the Memphis Blues select Kobe Johnson, a shooting guard from New Haven, Connecticut. So they go to shooting guard here, a position that they now have 3 on the board. Obviously, we've talked about, it's probably going to be Marino going down to point guard for them, but a couple options here to maybe play the point guard position.
Yeah, it definitely could be one of the others instead. Like, if you expect for one of Nick Hill, Kobe Johnson, and Shiloh Marino to go down, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to bring Michigan back on the clock. Any luck on Correctional there, or is he around?
I haven't been able to reach out just because I've been pretty consistently on fire, but I'll try right again.
On fire. You're always on fire in a good way.
I know, mostly in a good way.
So let's talk about a little bit of Michigan while I get this pick ready here. Gish, maybe positionally, any needs for Michigan or something that you see that could take here?
Yeah, I mean, we might see him go with another point guard, just with Doc Boone. But Puff and stuff can definitely, slide to either guard position, particularly defensively. But I would definitely expect, point guard, shooting guard, maybe, one of the small forwards who might be able to slide up. But with already having three power forwards and a center in Aaron Ike, I think a smaller guy here.
Well, let's see. Michigan their pick is in. Let's go see who they're going to take. With the 52nd pick in the GSB Season 1 draft, the Michigan Killer Bees select Quan Wulong Chi, a small forward from San Francisco, California, by way of Taiwan. So this is JT's guy in the chat. He's been talking about he's going to play with a chip on his shoulder. That's a good problem to have, Gish, for Michigan, to bring in a guy that obviously is very vocal about being passed up this long.
Yeah. Wulong Chi is going to bring a lot of energy, a lot of activity off the court. Obviously, we've seen him in chat. He's taking notes on all the teams that passed him up. So definitely a guy who's hungry. Not necessarily the smaller guy that I was necessarily expecting, but if they're planning to move one of their power forwards down to center, and maybe slide a guy like Riggins up to shooting guard, I can see where this would be a good fit.
Well, now we head to San Antonio for their next pick here. Dylan and the staff has done a good job with Percy out there. Percy's actually announcing the picks. Tez Green, Bryston, Shalizzy, and Shane Lloyd. So they've got one of everything pretty much in the draft so far. What they haven't got is another small forward, but they have a lot of freedom, I think, here. I like to go pretty much wherever they want.
Yeah, we're getting to that point where we're seeing teams that are starting to make moves that are just notably different, and so as we get to the point where they lose the lack of flexibility, they're just grabbing the guy they want.
Yeah, and that's a big plus, right? Like, now these are starting to be franchise fillers, as I call them, right? The guys that that will stick around for your franchise to help you contend for years to come. So getting your guy that you want is important. So let's go see who San Antonio is going to take here in the 5th round. With the 53rd pick in the 5th round, the GSB Season 1 draft, the San Antonio Stampede select Bryce Lee, point guard from Freehold, New Jersey. So Bryce Lee off the board here. A point guard. Obviously, we say they can go wherever they want with that pick. They go to a point guard. They go to Bryce Lee, who is probably the best available point guard on the board, Gish.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of just one of the better available players overall. Another player who, kind of struggled a little bit in the prospect games, just 38% from the floor. Struggled to hit wasn't able to hit a three, but a lot of potential for Bryce Lee for sure.
Yeah, and the great thing about this Rylock too in this draft is that I would say 98% of the community is very active anyway. We've had an extremely active community, so even the guys that are getting drafted this late are very active players.
Yeah, there is 100% a chance that these end up being big names, big stars, sooner rather than later.
For sure. And with expansion planned in the future, these can be, like you said, this can become stars for other teams, not necessarily maybe the teams that are drafting them now, but they can be, like you said, they could be stars, and they could be stars for the team that drafts them right now. We don't know what's going to happen when the season gets here, how guys progress, and how guys use their tendencies, and all those things. So this can go so many different ways throughout the season, and I'm just, we're going to look back during the season and talk about this part of the draft, where maybe a guy like Bryce Lee is leading San Antonio to a playoff berth or something, right?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of potential. Bryce Lee is one of the more polished prospects at this point in time.
For sure. Let's take a look at Kentucky's pick is in, and let's take a look at who the reserve are going to get here in the 5th. With the 54th pick in the GSB Season 1 draft, the Kentucky Reserve select Ernesto Romero III from Mexico, a center. So Ernesto Romero III off the board here. Now we talked about, Gish, one of those big-bodied centers, right? Those giants,
Yep.
as we call them. Jim Williams and Ernesto are probably the two notable ones at that. So this is now a very potential pick for Kentucky to say, we're going to go get a huge body and see what he could do here.
Yeah, really like this pick for Kentucky. In my opinion, it needed to be one of the extremes, either center or point guard, and so Romero, like you said, big-bodied center will really be able to provide some stability for them down low.
Yeah, and Radlak, I want to talk about a little bit here. As we still got 91 strong here in the 5th round in the chat, but I want to talk a little bit about how positions work in secondaries and how that works. And what we've put in place is, if you're within the height of another position, you can play that position, right? So you have to declare. You get a secondary, but your power forward could potentially be a shooting guard secondary and play that position, right? So we're going to see a lot of flexibility at this point of the draft too, and where guys can play for teams.
Yeah. We know that there are a lot of folks who are very creative in moving things around and making this work, and they've had plans all along. Like, we know that Javad Storm from Oakland, for instance, is planning on playing center primarily, but is a power forward by grade, and so we'll see how that ends up impacting the end of this here.
Yeah, for sure. As we head to Vegas for their next pick, as I'm getting that ready, that pick is just about to be in. Gish, anything on the board for Vegas that stands out that might be a positional need for them?
Let's see. I think a wing would definitely make a lot of sense here. They just have the Saint brothers, Cajun and Enrique, small forward and power forward. So I think that would make a lot of sense for them. We'll see where they go with it.
Well, here we go. Let's go see who Vegas is taking here. With the 55th pick in the 5th round, GSB Season 1 draft, the Las Vegas Jokers select Aaron Hughes, a point guard from Alexandria, Louisiana. That puts Vice City back on the clock. So Aaron Hughes off the board, a potential knockdown shooter at the point guard position, was 6 for 9 in the prospect tournament, was 2nd overall in three-point field goal percentage. Inconsistency is probably the question mark here on a 5th round grade for Aaron Hughes, and maybe a little defensive question mark as well, Gish.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that they're taking a third point guard and Hughes tells me that they're probably looking to slide some guys down. I think we might see Devin Davis maybe slide to shooting guard. Chalakovich could, I think, pretty easily slide to small forward. So, we just talked about the secondary positions and flexibility, and I think that's definitely something that Vegas has given themselves the option for with that pick.
For sure. Well, now we're back in Vice City for the 5th round. Radlak, I believe this is a pick from a trade. I don't know which trade it was. I think it was one of their original trades to go up to 1. Actually, I think they got 1 in the 5th round here because this looks like Vegas' original pick here. So I think that's what it is, and I think Vice City's back on the board here. Taking a look at Vice City. Obviously, they're very big right now with three centers. They can get a little smaller. Is there any, couple of guards maybe on your mind that stand out to you maybe here?
I mean, the folks that are still here, Twinkle Toes is one that definitely should be on radars. EJ Bailey, lots of really good options.
Well, let's go see who they're going to take here in the 5th. Their pick is in for Vice City. With the 56th pick in the 5th round, Vice City Kings select EJ Bailey, a point guard from Houston, Texas. So there's your point guard, Rylock. EJ Bailey off the board, and a really good pick here for Vice City this late in the 5th. EJ Bailey is a guy that could turn out to be a really solid player here for Vice City.
Yeah, absolutely. He has a lot of dynamic potential, knows how to build within these kind of systems, and I think that he will do a great job with that squad.
Yeah, EJ Bailey Gish is a guy that's familiar with sim leagues, has been around a long time, has been a coach in multiple. So he's a guy that knows the system, and when you can get a guy into a team that knows the system, that is a good addition at any point, I think.
Yeah, sorry. I was having flashbacks. That was weird. I'm not really sure what from. Yeah. EJ Bailey, great presence in sim leagues. Has been a great presence in chat tonight. I can already see. Yeah, he's ready to go on his revenge arc for sure over in Vice City. A great pickup for them.
Yeah.
And I think he's got the swagger to make Vice City work too. That it's a natural
Absolutely.
fit, so he'll look fly in those unis.
For sure. Absolutely will, for sure. So now the Orcas, Seattle back on the clock here in the 5th, as we're a little over halfway through the 5th. One more round after this. But the Orcas have some freedom in where they can go. They do need probably a power forward or a small forward, so we'll see where they go with this pick, as their pick is now in. So let's see where Seattle's going to take here in the 5th round. With the 57th pick in the GSP Season 1 draft, the Seattle Orcas select Butch Harrison, a power forward from Atlanta, Georgia. So Butch Harrison off the board here. He goes to Seattle. That'll put Memphis back on the clock for their trade. That's the trade up. They got the 5th round pick back here. But Butch Harrison is active in chat. ADM Smith, very active player as well. The Caveman was my ugliest rated player. But going to bring a little bit of swagger to Seattle here.
Should be fun. They're gonna have an intimidating looking set with Butch Harrison, Shane Knox, like definitely an imposing crew.
Yeah, and then McGinty is there also.
The imposing crew, and then McGinty gets off the bus, and they're like, they're not so bad.
You
I
just
can,
hide McGinty behind Shane Knox, and then it's fine.
Yeah, I can tell you as an Orca now myself, I love this addition.
Yeah, it's a good pick. Butch Harrison is, and obviously very active, and as all these people are. We don't need to keep saying it. Like even the people in the 6th round are very active players. So, but Memphis is back on the clock. Their second pick here in the 5th round. Their first one, they took Kobe Johnson at 51 overall. Now they're on the clock at the 58th pick, and their pick is in. So let's see who Memphis is going to. Joe Fresh, thank you for the sub. I believe that's the 6th gifted sub in this this stream. So thank you, Joe, one of our minors players. So with the 58th pick in the GSP Season 1 draft, the Memphis Blues select Frosty Malone, a center from Liberty, Missouri. So Frosty Malone off the board. Obviously, we all know Arctic Knight from a lot of leagues, and he's been around as well. So Frosty, a good addition for Memphis, and really does fit that that pretty well. Gish.
Yeah, absolutely. And Malone's another one of those big-bodied centers we've been talking about. Maybe not quite the size of Jim C. Williams, but 7'1". Just he's going to be a really solid post presence for Memphis to fit inside alongside Dolph. Interesting that still no point guard from Memphis, but but they clearly have a plan and they're sticking to it.
For sure. Who was Vegas pick at 55? It went away on the draft board. As we head to Ohio here.
I'll get it.
No worries. So Ohio's now in the 5th round. Taking a look at Ohio's draft so far. They go Jerry Philbin, Scout Mitchell, Joey Phillips, and Jordan Tribble. So one of each, which gives them a lot of freedom too. Gish, you've been talking a lot about having a backup for Huxley, which makes sense here a little bit. Point guard still on the board for me. Josh Shiren, Robert Ivory, Ronnie Shanahan are guys that I see as notable, best available here.
Yeah, and I'd call out Muddy Blunts too. I think one of the last remaining players from Lib's list, once I believe was on the shooting list. Someone who struggled a little bit shooting in the prospect games, but definitely has the ability to light it up.
Well, he's got that slow developing shot as well, right? And he hit a few of them, but I think it's a guy that can be developed really well.
Absolutely.
at this level. And as you know, in the 5th round, you're taking guys that you think you could develop. So let's go see who Ohio's going to take here in the 5th. With the 59th pick in the 5th round, the Ohio Shamans select Muddy Blunts, a point guard from New York City. So big city guy, Muddy Blunts. Guess you just talked about him being able to shoot it a little bit, but more of a swagger pick here for Ohio, and a guy that they feel like they can develop.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Huxley's, they already have Huxley, a really solid point guard, who I think will probably slot into that starting role more often than not. And yeah, I think Blunts is a really good guy for them to develop into a really good backup point guard.
For sure. Well, that puts Oakland back on the clock. Rylock, any thoughts on Oakland here in the 5th round?
I mean, they really need to invest in forwards, I think. If they want any chance of having Stank as a guard, they're gonna need to help build things up. Because like I said at the outset, Storm is built mostly to play center, so we'll see what they're able to pick up here to help give them that flexibility back.
For sure. I believe that Shalizzy would like to chat about his pick. We can ask him a few questions if that invite wants to be given out as we.
I can do that as well, but I had forgotten to abduct Curator, so I'll bring him in first, and I'll queue up Shalizzy as well.
Sure.
Jojo, hop into voice chat, and I'll abduct you shortly. Curator is here with us though, so go ahead and let's get him going.
Yeah. Congratulations, Correctional Curator, on being drafted in the GSB. Talk to me a little bit about.
No, he dropped.
We lost him.
We lost him. That's okay. When he comes
Yeah,
back,
let
we
me
could
see if I
talk
can
about it.
abduct him again.
That's
Yeah.
okay. I think Oakland's pick might be close to being in real quick anyway. So
Yeah.
while we wait for him.
We got Curator back, but he's muted still, so hopefully he is around.
Oh, I think.
My bad, fellas. I'm here.
Oh, you're
No
good.
worries.
So,
It's all good.
congratulations on being drafted. Let's talk a little bit about the spot that you went to at Vice City in the 4th round. What do you think about the fit for the Kings here with you?
I think the Kings made the best pick of the draft.
Yeah, obviously, right?
But they were one of the 2 teams to hit me up, so I wasn't surprised that I got drafted by them.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the Kings having a few centers on the board now. You're the 3rd one there. Some flexibility. Have they talked to you a little bit about maybe moving down to the power forward position?
No, they haven't said anything, but that was the plan for me from the start, to be able to move to different positions depending on what the team needed.
Yeah, and you're flexible enough. You can actually play all 5 positions at your height, so which is really interesting. So we'll see. But let me get Oakland's pick, and then we'll talk to you a little more here. But Oakland's pick is in, so let's get that real quick. With the 60th pick in the GSP Season 1 draft, the Oakland Otters select Jason Bourne, a power forward from Nixa, Missouri. So Jason Bourne goes off the board here. That brings New York back onto the clock. But let's talk a little more to Correctional Curator. Tell me, that is interesting that you can play all 5 positions, but tell me a little bit about you as a player and what Vice City is getting in a player and what the league needs to be on the watch out for.
As a player, you're pretty much getting the glue. I don't want to be a superstar, so I just call myself the glue, pretty much. I put it all together for a team that's looking to compete right away for a championship.
Yeah.
And I can be that piece to take over the top.
Yeah,
and I feel like with the Vice, we have some good pieces right now.
Yeah, you really do. Over at Vice City, they've had a really good draft. Obviously, traded up to number 1 to take Al Pedraza. So they've been making big moves. They're playing to win a lot, and we talked about it. At this point in the draft, you want guys, the glue guys. You want guys that hold teams together and play their role well. And we've all been really high on you as a player, and think that you're a really good fit to be able to come into a team and be that guy that might push them on a run. So we're really excited for your career, man. But any final things you wanna you want to say to our members and what to watch out for correctional curator this year?
Yes, sir. One more thing. I am the real king of Memphis. Memphis Blues. Made a mistake, but it's all good. All right. Appreciate y'all. Thank you for the time.
We'll see you later. Congratulations again. That was correctional curator. New York on the clock. We'll get this pick and then we'll talk to JoJo here.
Yep.
But the last pick of the 5th round is in, and we have that one here. Let's see who New York is taking. With the 61st pick in the 5th round, the New York Skyliners select Twinkle Toes Jr., a shooting guard from Whispering Feet, Iowa. Gish, this is a steal in my mind. I mean, bottom of the 6th round, you get a knockdown shooter like Twinkle Toes.
Yeah, 11 of 16 from 3 in the prospect games. If we had had a green room for this, he would have been that guy who was sitting in there for way too long, who finally goes off the board here.
Yeah, it's a good pick. I mean, Twinkle Toes is a guy that is, when he is active, he is really active. So it's a potential pick here for New York, but I think the Skyliners absolutely nailed it, Rylock here.
I would agree. There was a little bit of controversy for this one. I think one of our couriers might have been given the envelope here, and then before they were able to get out the door, asked for it back just to make sure. And it looks like they may have crossed out a name in there, but in the end, this is an excellent pick, like you said, huge value, and we've all been at this for a long time now. Appreciate everyone still with us, but. Think a human mistake got made, it got fixed up, and now we're here. Everything's good.
We're good to go? No issues?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No hiccups.
Everyone's
we're
happy,
good
huh?
Well, I don't know if everyone's happy. People wanted to take Twinkle Toes in the 6th, but we're here now, and it is what it is.
We'll move on. We'll get going here. That's his life of a live draft. That is the element that comes in sometimes.
Yep.
But now we're heading to the 6th round, and we're on to team's last pick. So teams are starting to round out a little bit. This is a great part of the draft because now after you make this pick, your team is full. You know who you have for season 1 and who you're rolling into the year with. So what are your thoughts on the 6th round in the final round here?
Yeah, I think at this point teams probably have maybe just 1 or 2 positions that they're looking at as positions of need, and I think they're mostly just going to be hoping that there's still a player at that position around. Yeah, we'll see what teams are able to do.
For sure. So Dallas on the clock, their last pick of the draft. We're going to see who the Flying Stallions are going to take here, and I do want to shout out the Red Pegasus podcast. If they have hopped in at all, if you guys haven't checked out Pizzo's interview with them, it was awesome. You guys definitely need to watch that or listen to that and check that out. But I do want to shout them out if they're watching the replay. Big fan of the show, and hope that we can connect more later with them. But let's go see who the final pick for Dallas is here. With the 62nd pick in the 6th round, the Dallas Flying Stallions select Jen Shinobi, power forward from Brazil. So Jen Shinobi off the board. Gish, power forward to Dallas. Obviously anything here is probably fine, but is it a positional fit for them, or it look like they might have to move some stuff around for that?
That was actually the last position where they didn't have 2, so they did exactly what I was talking about. They clearly identified power forward as the last spot that they needed to fill, and went out and got in their mind the best guy left at that spot.
For sure. Is JoJo on the line with us?
I am right here. I've been waiting for you guys to say my name. I did not want to interrupt.
No, you're good. I appreciate you. Congratulations on being drafted here in GSB, 3rd round pick of the San Antonio Stampede. How do you feel about where you went here and the situation you're going into?
I mean, Bryson was one of those guys in the prospect games that nobody even knew about, and then they drafted him, and I was like, okay, that's a good mid early pick, and then I knew Carr, and they never even hit me up, but most importantly, when I look, we were just talking about Dallas, forget about my player, and I love the Stampede, and we're going to pursue to do good, but Dallas stole in the 3rd round Matt Phillips, and I really thought he would have been probably higher than he was in the 3rd.
Yeah, I mean
And that
we're seeing some guys kind of all over the place, but it makes it a lot of
like
fun.
Zima Blue, like you said, you love Zima Blue, and I did too. And I'm like, okay, wow, like these guys went after me. Like I think they're a little better than my guy, but that's the respect that the Stampede gave to me. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you want the league to know about Dominic Schlosley? Obviously, you're undersized, but a
Yeah.
great rebounder at your position. But what do you kind of want the league to know about who you are and what you're going to bring to San Antonio?
Number one, I know that we're gonna win, and it may not be every game, but we're gonna be there, and people are gonna be like, okay, we can gritty it out. And I also know that with the leadership that we have here, that I'll be maybe a starter or role player, which is fine. I just expect to be a pest on the court.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're going to kill it for sure. But we appreciate you jumping in real quick and talking to us. And
Yeah.
good luck with San Antonio. Can't wait to see what you do with the Stampede. And
Appreciate it.
yeah, we'll see, man. But I appreciate you jumping in.
All right, go GSB. Thank you.
All right, take a look at Oakland's pick here in the 6th round, their final pick of the draft. And that is in. So with the 63rd pick in the 6th round of the GSB Season 1 draft, the Oakland Otters select Derek Freeman, small forward from Oregon, Ohio. So Freeman Gish is a guy also that has been talking a lot in chat. He won a giveaway the other night. He's an active player too, and this just goes to pad our point that even in the 6th round, you're finding guys that can be a really good asset to your team.
Absolutely, and yeah, Freeman fits another position of need for them at small forward. We've already talked about how Storm will likely slide to center, and one of their point guards, possibly odd enough, maybe Munoz will slide to shooting guard. So, yeah, great pickup for the Otters for sure.
Yeah, for sure. We'll head to Ohio for their last pick now. I do think that Libertines wanted to jump in. He doesn't need an invite because he's already on the admin thing. So, Libertines, if you want to jump in and talk about your number 2 pick overall, you can definitely do that. As we hear from Ohio here in the final round. We are getting to that point, Rylock, where it is almost the end. It has been a long draft. We've been doing it for a while. It will be the longest draft that we ever have, I promise.
Yeah, and huge shout out to our owners, honestly, for sticking with us through this whole thing. The owners and the staff have done an absolutely amazing job, and we've fixed problems before they even became a thing. It has just been an amazing shout out. So I want to definitely give them the kudos they deserve for making this an amazing process.
Yeah, and we didn't really know, and we haven't got behind, which is great. We've stayed ahead the entire time. They've been on it. But, when we decided to do a live draft, we didn't really know, right? Like, we'd never really been part of one. We thought it'd be a really good idea. I think it's been a really good success. It's been long, but I think that it's been successful in the sense that it's added a bit of element to, we didn't really know who was getting picked where. Outside of some of the chat, but before it came in, it was pretty much a surprise to all of us. So we've been really doing it on the fly, Rylock.
Yeah, it has been quite a process, and I'm just again super stoked at the amount of work and effort that these staff have put in to make this great.
Absolutely.
It was just an amazing effort, and I can't overstate it enough.
Yeah, and I also just want to shout out while we wait this pick to come in that we still got 75 viewers in the chat. We've been 75 plus the entire draft. We've had up to 120 plus, but 75 in the 6th round of this thing. Now we're going on 3.5 hours of this draft. We've had a ton of announcements. We've had a ton of surprises. The announcement at the beginning with Gold Standard International Football stuff, and it's just been absolutely wild. So shout out to everybody still in the chat as well. And I also want to shout out you guys, Gish, Rylock, for sticking with me for 3.5 hours through this. I know it has been a lot, but I do appreciate you guys.
And you want to know the best part? It looks like Dallas is going to call a presser with their first round pick after this. So
I'll be there.
I'm going to probably roll from this to a press conference afterwards. But that should be a lot of fun. We should be open for questions from the media. So we'll get that settled up.
I'm hoping that teams do that throughout the week here. There, as we have a little break before tip off of the games, and
I'll definitely take point in getting that going where we can get that happen. So
For
any
sure.
team staff, feel free to reach out at some point during the coming week, and we can set up a presser with you and you and some of your picks, your draft class, whatever you want to talk about. We can make it happen.
Yeah, let's do that for sure. Let's get Ohio's pick though now. It is in the final pick of the draft. With the 64th pick of the 6th round of the GSP Season 1 draft, the Ohio Shamans select Still So Good, small forward from Ding Dong, Texas. One of the most fun names here, Gish. Still So Good. And Ding Dong, Texas is a real place, if you're wondering. He confirmed it with me.
It is.
I would have given it to
I
him
can
anyway,
see,
but it is funny. And he is, he's a really funny guy. We've known him through other leagues as well. He's the original Up to No Good in the league. Then Libertines had that name, but Still So Good is a phenomenal name, Gish, here. And this is the 6th round is the name round, right? Like this is when you start taking the fun guys.
Yeah, and I can confirm Ding Dong, Texas is about 30 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. Yeah, and definitely a great name pick and Still So Good. And Ohio, gonna have to slide one of these small forwards up to shooting guard probably. Mashera, definitely showed that he has the shooting ability to do it.
Yeah.
A good pickup for Ohio.
All right, let's head to Memphis. Memphis 6th round pick, their final pick of the draft. That pick is in. Let's see who the Blues are taking here in the 6th. With the 65th pick in the 6th round of the GSP Season 1 draft, the Memphis Blues select Damian Chambers, a small forward from Brooklyn, New York. So Chambers goes here, another guy that has the ability to shoot it, a lot of potential for the Blues. Memphis is taking guys that are just tough-nosed. We talk about New York being a tough place, right, to grow up and to play in the streets and stuff. And, now they've taken a guy in Just Blaze who's from the Bronx, I believe, and they just took Damian Chambers from Brooklyn. So is there a little New York City connection and kind of inner city, New York here in Memphis? That's obviously their persona, Rylock, to go get these hard-nosed guys to represent.
Yeah.
And I think they've stuck to that kind of plan.
I think so, and I think it's good for their brand. They're definitely having an identity going, and it is good to see that they're following through on it.
Yeah, and Gish, how important is branding now? And we're talking about that as what we're doing in this league with, getting sponsorships and your team being able to, kind of identify as something different, right? And reach out into these markets. Like how important it is to stay on brand and get guys that can promote that brand well.
Oh yeah, that is so important. Memphis has definitely been one of our strongest brands so far. They know what they want, and in terms of marketability and getting people from Memphis maybe to kind of buy into this franchise, they're definitely picking the right guys for that.
For sure. Well, now you head to Seattle, and we have a special guest with us. Libertines is here. Bobby Bricks himself is into the chat. Libertines, what's up, man? Tell me a little bit about go-to overall. Was that a surprise to you?
Yeah, especially after Memphis, traded up in the draft. It's a lot of pressure for a guy, especially coming over to a new country and expecting to play the new brand of basketball.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so was Memphis involved in your draft process? Did you get to talk to the Blues staff, and how did those talks go?
Yeah, I had a pretty good idea going into today that I'd be going to the Blues. With the early pick, they were pretty sure they knew who was going number 1, so they made it pretty clear that I'd be their guy. I really like what they've done with the rest of their picks there. A lot of hard-nosed guys, being from the east end of London, rough area as well. I just feel like it just breeds good basketball. So I think people are going to have to watch out when they're on the court with Memphis. They better bring their big boy shoes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get Orca's pick, and we'll ask you a couple more questions here. The Seattle's pick is in, so let's see who they're going with. With the 66th pick in the 6th round of the GSP Season 1 draft, the Seattle Orcas select Jim C. Williams, a center from Decatur, Georgia. Guys, this is the Giant Gish. It's his nickname. Jim the Giant C. Williams, a huge body, obviously, a big threat down low, and fun is infinite is a good personality as well.
Yeah, love the pick. We talked about going a lot earlier. I am curious to see how the fit's going to work here in Seattle with Medici and Shane Knox already being on the team.
It's true. I think Medici could slide down, right? A little bit, maybe?
Yeah, he probably can. We might be a little on the slow side, but that's, I think I trust our
They're a really
to make it
defensive
work.
squad, too, right? That they've been building throughout this draft.
Absolutely.
Well, cool. Well, that heads us to Vice City here in the 6th, and we're here talking with Bobby Bricks, the number 2 overall pick to Memphis. So, Bobby, tell me, a little bit about your understanding of what Memphis is bringing and what you can bring to the community of Memphis.
I'm really excited. I mean, I don't know that there's a better brand going right now. Their uniforms are slick.
Yes.
They've been so active in the community as a franchise, and I feel like those big personalities that Memphis have will allow me to fly a little bit more under the radar when it comes to all the pressure that's going to be put on me after the trade and going so high in this draft.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. Hopefully we get a better presser with you throughout the week with Memphis. Can't wait to see Bobby Bricks holding the Memphis jersey. But how much of a relief now? You've been part of this process with us too, going on. But how much of a relief is it for you now to know exactly where you're going and you can get started?
It's real exciting. I mean, this has been a long time coming, and there's been such an amazing reception to this league, and the content has been absolutely phenomenal. More than even I had high expectations going in, and the expectations have been blown out of the water for me. It's been pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Well, appreciate you coming and talking to us about the number 2 overall pick and the Memphis Blues. We're going to make sure we get a presser set up with you this week so we can formally introduce you with the Memphis Blues, but we're looking forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, have a good one. That was Bobby Bricks, the number 2 pick overall. We got Vice City's 6th round pick in. Let's check out who the Kings are taking as their last pick. With the 67th pick in the 6th round, the Vice City Kings select Robert Ivory, point guard from Chicago, Illinois. So Vice City's last pick is Robert Ivory, a point guard. Gish looking at their board, good pick for them there as we get into kind of an interesting point in the draft where, you're kind of just taking some guys and throwing darts at some point.
Yeah, it does give them 3 point guards, but one of those is a guy like EJ Bailey who's 6'5", a bigger body for a point guard. We obviously have seen what he can do with that bigger body for a point guard, and so I think not a problem at all for Vice City to be taking Ivory here.
Yeah, and I want to talk about something as we're waiting on Vegas's pick, Rylock, and how owners in this league, it is unique because they can see everything in the sense of they could see the overalls, they could see the attributes, they could see who has progressed and who has missed their progression, how important it is for players to stay on top of that, and how important is this social game that we're getting into where, things like missing progression could move you down a draft board, could take you off a team's draft or like free agency and stuff like that.
I think that honestly one of the biggest examples of that is the fact that that Clowers fell into the bottom of this draft, that he had an overperforming player in the prospect game, but had let a lot of his progression wait while he was waiting for a team to scoop him up, and so I think some folks might have seen that as inactivity, and it led to an absolute steal at the bottom of that round.
For sure, yeah, definitely. Jim C. Williams just used 15,000 channel points to call a press conference, so It will happen that sometime this week we will schedule that for Jim C. Williams. I think he's got some things to say about where he went in the draft, and
I think that's perfectly fair, and I'm looking forward to hearing it.
definitely. Well, let's see who Vegas takes here as their final pick of the draft. With the 68th pick in the 6th round, the Las Vegas Jokers select Anthony Simmons, a power forward from St. Louis, Missouri. So Simmons off the board here in the 6th round. That's a guy that I do like a little bit. I think that Simmons has some potential, Gish, at the power forward position. I think he can actually play a couple positions. So a good pick there for Vegas here in the 6th.
And I think it needed to be a power forward. You know, they just had one each at the small forward and power forward positions, and with all the small forwards off the board, I think power forward had to be the pick there, and they got a good one in Simmons.
For sure. That brings us to Kentucky. And Kentucky's final pick, and I want to recap Kentucky's draft so far. They started with Cam Mello in the first round, which was probably the first surprise that we've had in the draft, in the sense of I probably had a more of a second-round draft grade, but they got him at number 5. And then they take a guy in Scotty B. Pippen, who actually I thought was a really good pick for them as a defensive specialist. Then they go A.R. Jordan, Sasha Petrovic, and Ernesto Romero III. So, Rylak, analyze Kentucky's draft so far up to this point.
I mean, I think that they just did their research, knew the people they wanted, and absolutely went after folks that fit what they were trying to do. As long as they've got a coherent picture, I'm excited to see how it works out.
Yeah, so I think their pick is in. So let's go ahead and head to their pick. Actually, their pick is not in yet. Give me 1 second to put their pick in. But, Kentucky is a brand that maybe as much as anybody in the league is very marketable in the sense of their branding. And Phoenix is if you have to kind of look at what kind of owner he is, I think he is more of a marketing owner who's going to really push that brand. He has a good staff that can help him, coach and game plan and stuff. But I think he's a guy that is really going to push that brand.
Yeah, I would agree that he's more the marketing head, and he's probably going to lean on Derek as the basketball side.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see that brand. I know that the stars were aligning for them to get Riggins and to be the brand of the Kentucky Reserve with Riggins' personality, but didn't happen. They ended up getting Cam Mello, who has an opportunity to slide in and be a face of a franchise there. So the first time that we've actually, opportunity arises here for Cam Mello. But let's see who they're going to take here in the last pick. With the 69th pick of the 6th round, the Kentucky Reserves select Josh Shiren, a point guard from Shamokin, Pennsylvania. Gish, this pick is actually very sneaky for Kentucky. A guy that had one really good performance and was a little inconsistent, but he showed really good flashes. I think I probably had him closer to a 4th round grade. Getting him in the 6th got to feel good for Kentucky.
Yeah, and a couple of things on Shiren. I think him being the other 6-foot point guard, may have knocked his draft stock down a little bit, and then teams may not have seen him being that active and kind of in the league. I have a feeling from knowing him a little bit from some other leagues that may tick up a little bit as he actually just had a child. So I think we may see an activity tick up from Shiren here in the
a good reason not to be active. But yeah, Shiren is an active player. I've talked to him multiple times. I've known him for multiple leagues. That's a really good get here for Kentucky. We're on to the Stampede. 4 picks left in the draft. Let's see who San Antonio is going to take here in the 6th round. With the 70th pick, the 6th round of the GSB Season 1 draft, the San Antonio Stampede select Anthony Stover, a center from St. Amant, Louisiana. So Stover here off the board, a guy that we are familiar with in some sim leagues. So a guy that has potential to be pretty active, but he's going to play with a chip on his shoulder. He's actually been in the chat and talked to him personally already on Discord. So good get here for San Antonio, who Rylak has had a pretty dang good draft in my mind.
Yeah, I would agree. At this point, it has been an excellent one, and I know that Stover feels like this is a slight and will come in with a big chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 picks left. We're going to head to Michigan. The Killer Bees are on the clock for their final pick. Again, shout out to all of the owners and staff who have been hanging around and, waiting this one out and staying on top of their picks and making this a really fun experience. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat, that has been in the chat the whole time. We've been over 75 the entire stream for 4 hours almost. So, yeah, I mean, I'm humbled by that. Rylock, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, this is amazing. And this community has been absolutely killing it, and I'm honestly trying to just give back here. I've been quiet this last little bit just because I'm starting to assign roles to folks that are in chat. So we're already about, like, I'd say halfway done with people being on teams and in locker rooms. So just putting in all the work on the back end here.
We appreciate that. And Gish, talk to, about, we're just getting started with this stuff. Obviously, we made the announcement earlier about GSIF, or we haven't decided what we're going to call it yet, but it's our
Probably GSIF.
Our international football, league that's going to be launching in 2024. But we're just scratching the surface on, people think they've seen, and they have seen incredible content and, a lot of hard work, but we are just getting started here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, y'all saw it over these last couple of weeks. Just during the prospect games, just random teams thrown together. Our writers were killing it, getting recaps from that. Biggest risers. So many mock drafts.
And I know we've already got a draft recap in the works.
Oh, wow.
So like, it's just absolutely killing it with the content.
Yeah, we got press conferences and draft recaps. And Libertines wants me to run the video one more time. We'll do that right after the Bees pick here. But let's go ahead and see who the Bees take here in the final round. With the 71st pick of the 6th round here of the GSB Season 1 draft, the Michigan Killer Bees select Jeremiah Prophet, a power forward from Atlanta, Georgia. So Prophet off the board here, another guy that we know really well. Rampage is very active in a lot of chats, has the potential to be a very good player. So Gish, I mean, that's a good steal here in the round from an activity standpoint.
Yeah, maybe not the position that Michigan necessarily would have liked. They already had a lot of wing guys, but just looking at who was on the board, they definitely got, in my opinion, the best overall left among the three.
Yeah, and at this point, you're just taking who's left, and down the road you might, with the flexibility that we have with secondary positions, you can make it work, or you can look for a trade. And I have a feeling we'll see some trades before some of these guys put their uniforms on for the first time. So we'll see about that. But let's head and check out the announcement one more time while we wait for Portland's final pick here.
We'll be saying, here we come. We'll be saying, here we come. Yeah, here we come. Hey, here we come. Here we come. Here we come.
Yes, he's round the last defender. Onto his right foot.
Here we come.
Oh, it's a goal!
Here we come. Here we come.
So there you guys have it again. In case anybody's missed it, nobody should have missed it because we've been so strong the entire time. But GSIF, Gold Standard International Football, will launch in 2024 in the summer. We have a team working on that, but our focus remains on Gold Standard Basketball. But we are aiming for a wider reach, and the plan has always been to expand into more sports. And that will be our next adventure. Portland's pick is in real quick. Let's take a look at... maybe it's not in. I do want to take a minute to recognize a couple people that have really helped with this. B Hart for making the draft board, has made the draft a lot easier for us to keep track of. I want to shout out Smooth Grizz for the logo stings that you guys saw in the first couple of rounds. He did a great job with those. And I want to, obviously, my admin team, who's done a great job, and PAX for a lot of these cutouts that you guys saw and graphics that you guys saw. And I want to shout out Brent for that video. So I am now Gish. You are now Rylock, apparently. But that sounds about right for the end of the draft.
Right, we're at that point.
A 3 hour, 45 minute.
Yeah,
It will
but
be the longest
did
draft we
get
ever
out.
have.
Yeah, for sure. We did get out
Better be.
on the 11 p.m. that somebody was kicking around, so
I don't even know how we changed. I haven't changed a single thing the entire time. That is funny.
it must have just been something to do with the video.
All good. Well, let's head to get Portland's 6th round pick here. Rylock's gonna make the pick here.
Nah, Rylock's not doing nothing.
I'll say it
Go
while
ahead,
Rylock's
Doc.
face is on the
Yeah.
screen with the
Wonderful.
with the 72nd pick. The Portland Pioneers select Ronnie Shanahan, point guard from Houston, Texas. So Hawk, how is it? Shanahan, the Shanahan pick here for Portland. That means one guy left, and we can get to that pick here in a second. But Ronnie Shanahan's actually been really active in the chat today.
Yeah.
He's absolutely going to have a chip
So
on his shoulder.
Yeah, huge pickup there, like always. We're getting quality people. Mr. Irrelevant in this draft is 100% going to have a huge impact. So even if you ended up being here at the bottom, that doesn't mean anything. You're going to have a huge impact. You can be a star. It's going to be wonderful. And that's kind of why I love the way we put this together.
Absolutely. And if we look at real life comparisons, we only have to look at the NFL this year and look at Mr. Brock Purdy as Mr. Irrelevant, right? Gish, who led the 49ers into the playoffs and made a run for that team, was the final pick of that draft. We see guys like Isaiah Thomas going near the end of the NBA draft at 60 overall, who absolutely had a great career. These picks are the most fun because you get to look back and see that they defied the expectations.
Yeah, and Lucas Mueller coming up for New York. Don't hang your head. Get mad. You can take out revenge on every other team in this league.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to say, anybody in the chat watching that is not in our league yet, make sure you guys go ahead and head to our Discord, which I'll post here, and check out our website. We are filling our minors leagues right now as we speak, so we're trying to get guys in there. That'll be the next step for us, is to get an influx of minors guys so we can start building that out. So I do want to say that and drop that plug a little bit. But let's take a look at the final pick of the draft. And it'll be Rylock's face again. But I will.
Yep, I can even announce it this time. As Mr. Irrelevant in this draft, we've got Lucas Mueller going to the New York Skyliners.
Yeah, so Lucas Mueller, shooting guard from Munich, Germany. Chevy got a little bit of a late start, but I've talked to him personally. I know that he's going to be more active as we go on. And like Rylock said, anybody in this draft, and we'll repeat it, anybody in this draft can end up being the star of their team. Or a star down the future of any team. So we did it, guys. We got through all 6 rounds. We will post the draft, the 7th through 10th round later. Those are the staffs, but we'll post a graphic of those staffs this week at some point. And but we got through all 6 rounds. Do we want to just say who the staffs are real quick? We could do that.
We've said it a bunch of times, but we
Okay.
can say it one more.
Well, let's go through one more time. New York staff is Ant Thomas, a point guard, Sarah Counterman, Jojo Vasquez, and Eli Simmons. For Portland, it's AC Law the Fifth, Talani Velez, Rashadi Ish, and Braden Harchis. For Michigan, Doc Boone, Petey Wheatstraw, Sada Baby, and Aaron Ike. For San Antonio, it's Jim Carr, Percy Cooper, Willie Davis, and Bam Bam Hayes. For Kentucky, it's Dime Hardaway, Adam Sala, Colonel E.H. Taylor, and Bo Mamba. For Vegas, we have Scooby Lewis II, Cajun Saint, Enrique Saint, and Desi Saint, the Saint trio there. In Vice City, we have Akuna Matata, King James II, Billy Bob Buckley, and Justin Banks is not on there. Is he their 4th staff member? Oh, they had 4 picks. Came in with 3.
That was the supplemental.
Right. Seattle with Jason Snyder, Dub Stern, Steel Stern, and Coco Raccoon. With for Memphis, Alda Huxley, or Aldo Huxley, Elias Machera, Appleby Evans, and Bear Johnson. For Oakland, it's Adi Nuff, Anthony Stink, Javad Storm, and Monty Clark. And for Dallas, last but not least, Cherry Jello, Luke Boudreau, Milton Metro, and Marvin Metro. They got that New Orleans swag down there, being their owner and some of their staff from New Orleans. So that is the teams, and they're rounded out. I'm excited to take a deeper dive into what these teams look like as we go on here. Any final words, Rylock, before, obviously we'll head out and we'll have some other stuff to attend to and some fun in the chat, but still 63 watching. That's a testament to the community. But any final thoughts from you?
No, this was amazing. Super proud of everybody and what we've put together. And I love the owners. I love the staff. I love our admin team. This has been amazing and just such a good run. Thank you all for making it possible.
Yeah, if you like what you've seen, guys, share it with people. We're building something special in this league. Definitely share our links. Follow us on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram. Check out our website. Join our Discord. Get involved. Thank you to my wife, who apparently is still watching through all of this and taking care of Baby Hawk. So love you. Appreciate you. Thank you for sharing and doing that. And Gitch, any final words?
Yeah, just you guys, the community, y'all are the ones who made it a lot easier for us to go 3 hours and 50 minutes on this draft. Seeing the numbers stay up, let us know that y'all appreciated it. Made it a lot more fun getting to interact with some of our later round picks. Calling out teams in the chat. Just y'all are killing it. Keep it up.
Libertines is calling for an in-person draft next year. It is definitely in the works in the future. I don't know if it'll be next season, but it is in the works to do a live draft in person. There's a lot of logistics that we need to do there, but definitely want to do that in the future. And the drafts will be a lot shorter from now on. Obviously, the first draft we had to pick full teams, so they're long. But future drafts will only be 2 rounds, I believe. So they will be a lot shorter. And, same content, though. I mean, we went all out for 6 rounds. So, and we're going to keep doing it. So I appreciate everybody tuning in and staying in. I've seen a lot of these names since the very beginning. Your phones are all probably dead by now. But I appreciate you guys. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Hang out in the chat. We're not done. We got interviews. We got press conferences. We got content coming out. It doesn't sleep. This chat, the one thing I know, guys, is this chat does not sleep. I've had to mute my phone multiple times going to bed because it's just absolutely insane, which is great. I mean, and I love it. And it's a testament to, what we've been building. So if you guys enjoy it, definitely share it. And let me know what you guys think about the draft. I want feedback. I love feedback. Things we could do better, things that you liked. And let me know what you guys think about our announcement today. And we will, next time you see these guys, they'll be in their team jersey. So we're excited about that. And a lot more to come this week. So Rylock, Gish, I really do appreciate you guys for 4 hours being here. Actually, more than that since you were on earlier. And really, giving everything you had to this. I can't be more thankful. But we are, like I said, we're just getting started. And obviously, we love this. So we're headed out. But GSB, take care. Congratulations to everybody that's been drafted. Congratulations to all the staffs for rounding out their teams. Now go build those teams. Get ready. Tip-off is March 13th. Don't want to miss opening night. We'll see you guys then.
Peace.